The chairperson has just landed, so he will join us a bit later. I'm going to chair the meeting up until he gets connected. So that will take some time. So I will gladly open this meeting now. And I will ask the secretary to just flag the agenda for us.
Good morning, Chairperson. Good morning, colleagues, members, and officials.
Okay, thank you, Marcel. The agenda is as follows. I believe everybody did receive the agenda and all documents of the presentations that is part of the agenda. So it's a welcome and opening remarks by the chairperson, introduction by MP, support staff and departmental officials, and then we will deal with the apology and the adoption of the agenda. And then it will be the briefing by the Department of Social Development on its annual report for 2019-2020 financial year. After social development briefing, we will get the briefing from the South African Social Security Agency, SASSA. Then the briefing by National Development Agency, the NDA. And then at 25 to 11, we will have the opportunity for members to ask questions and then also for the responses. And then it will be the closing remarks and the meeting adjournment. I would like to ask members and the department to please take cognizance of the time slots that are on the agenda so that we don't go over our time slot that is allocated to us to 1:45. Thank you, members. Let me then, first of all, take the opportunity to welcome our Honorable Minister of Social Development in this meeting. Also, all members of the Portfolio and Select Committee, welcome in this very important joint Portfolio and Select Committee meeting. Also to our staff members and to the different departments and agencies. Feel free, and I think that we must really use the time to get all information and questions that we need. I would also, from the beginning, ask members to be prompt in their questions, and also if the department don't have enough time to answer all questions that was raised by the members, to then come back to us in writing through our secretaries by Friday. I now declare this meeting open, and I would also then take the opportunity to ask the different portfolio and select committee members to introduce themselves. Let me start with the portfolio committee. Can I ask the work to start with the introduction in the portfolio committee, and then we'll move to the select committee. We will then move over to the minister and the different departments. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Good morning, everyone. My name is Dikang Stock. I'm a member of the Portfolio Committee. Thank you.
Good morning, Chairperson. Morning.
Good morning.
My name is Kansani Kate Bilangula. I'm the member of the Portfolio Committee. Thank you.
Can we move to the portfolio committee members?
Good morning, everybody. I'm Liesel van der Merwe. I'm a member of the Portfolio Committee on Social Development. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Alexandra Abrams, member of the Portfolio Committee.
Life still goes on for those left behind.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Anastasia Mutau, member of the Portfolio Committee. Thank you.
Ngalambome, me Jane Manganyi. Soya Anastasia, me Jane Manganyi.
Ndingunonkosi Mvana, ilungu lekomiti yakwa Social Development. Enkosi.
Thank you. Is that all the members of the Portfolio Committee? Then I will move over. Comrade Maleka, can you lead in the introduction in the Select Committee? Oh, sorry. Comrade Alec Chabaleng.
Yes, Chairperson, my name is Elgin Chabalem. I'm a member of the Select Committee. I belong here. Thank you.
Member Baha.
Good morning, Chairperson. Good morning, everybody. I'm Bulelo Baha, a member of the Select Committee. Thank you, Chairperson.
All other members of the Select Committee, please introduce yourself.
Good morning, I'm Dalmaine Christians. I'm a member of the Select Committee.
Good morning, my name is Noenki Vivi, member of the Select Committee.
Thank you. Is the other members in Donkeni? Are you back?
Yes, Chair, I'm back.
Okay, you can introduce yourself.
Morning, everybody. My name is Nobuzola Ndongeni from Eastern Cape, member of the committee.
Is Member Maleka in
Do you
already?
hear me, Chair?
I did hear you. Thank you, Member. Is Member Maleka in?
I'm not quite sure, Chair.
Maybe she's still trying to connect. Minister, I will hand over to you now. Minister Zulu.
Hello.
Yes, Minister, you can start with the introduction. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. I think I do not want to spend a lot of time on my own comments. My name is Lindiwe Zulu. I'm the Minister of Social Development. I am here with the department as well as the agencies, as we call ourselves, the portfolio. Chairperson, I just want to make a few comments that are related to the campaign that was launched today by the Deputy President, by the campaign. There is a campaign on the 16 days of activism for no violence against women and children. And it is only just from our side as a Department of Social Development and being responsible for the well-being of the citizens of South Africa, and also being part and parcel of all the structures of government who are engaged in the fight against violence against women and children. I do want to indicate, Chairperson, that it is a call from myself as a minister and also the deputy minister. It's a call for us to harness our energies and do everything we can to fight this scourge. Also to indicate to the meeting that the 2020 campaign is under the theme Women's Economic Justice for Non-Violent and Non-Sexist South Africa, but also to indicate that this day, as we start this day, it also coincides with Disability Awareness Month, and we all know the challenges that are faced, particularly by people with disability. And also it coincides with the National Week of Mourning and Remembrance, which was launched this morning at the Union Building with the lowering of the flag. I am speaking to members of Parliament, of the Select Committee, but also our Portfolio Committee, and so I do not want to get into a lot of details because I'm speaking to members of Parliament who experience, who see across political lines, who see the problem we are facing of gender-based violence. And I'm also asking that members, where possible, they could join us as the Department of Social Development and the Department of Women, Youth and People with Disability, but join overall the good work that is being done by both men and women of South Africa to tackle GBVF, and call upon new members to say we are available if in case there are areas where you want us to reach out to, but also thank you for already the work that you do around this issue. It's 16 days of activism, but as a department and also as government overall, we are saying it's 365 days of fight. And until our women, until the girl child, until women are free to walk in the streets of South Africa without any fear of violence against them. And then a call to our society, obviously, to fight it house to house, street to street, community to community. With those words, Chairperson, I wish to thank you, but also then say the department and the CEOs will be making the presentation. I also... No, someone is not muted. Someone is not muted.
Hello.
Yes.
Can you mute your mics, please?
Thank you, Chairperson. But also I would like to indicate that I would leave the meeting early because we have the NCCC, which is chaired by the President, that starts at 11. So I will step out good enough to connect to that meeting. Thank you very much. And may I graciously hand over to the acting DG in the department, Mr. Mchunu. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Before handing over to the DG, there is just one administrative thing that I need to do. And that is to ask the secretaries if there's any apologies so that we can just handle that, and then we will gladly hand over to the DG. Welcome, Chairperson. I see you connected. Is there any apologies from the secretaries, please?
Thank you, Chairperson. We do have an apology, Chairperson. We've got an apology from Ms. Latuli. She submitted a doctor's note. She's not feeling well. And then we have apology from Ms. Sukas. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Marcel. Minister, I will gladly hand over now to your DG so that you can start with the presentation. Thank you. And thank you very much, Minister, for that introduction. And also we want to wish you well on this campaign because it is run out of your department as well as your deputy and all your officials. This is one of the campaigns that I think must make an impact in the lives of all our people in the country. And you will be excused by 11 o'clock. We are very fortunate that you make time through your program today to be part of this meeting. Thank you, Minister.
Linton.
DJ, can you unmute? You are muted. Thank you.
My apologies. Thank you so much. Honorable Chairperson and members of the committee, very good morning, and Minister, good morning to yourself and the DM and Minister and Chairperson. I'm not alone. We're accompanied by the two CEOs of SASSA and the NDA, as well as their teams, and including the DDGs and the teams from the Department of Social Development. And we want to as well join in the chorus in indicating the importance of the current campaign, 16 days of activism of no violence against women and children. And we want to indeed say that this is an important time and that we should all rally together to try and address the challenges that we have, which of course the President has referred to as the twin pandemics of COVID-19 and gender-based violence. Chairperson, without any further ado, I will then ask Thabani to quickly fly the presentation, and then I will deal with the first part of the presentation. I will ask Thabani to deal with the second part, the CFO, the third. I think in terms of the program, the guidance was that SASSA would follow after the department, and thereafter the national development agencies, and the CEOs will accordingly address those particular presentations. Chair, on the first slide, of course, we're presenting to you as the Joint Portfolio Committee our annual report of the Department of Social Development and our entities for the 2019-2020 financial year. I think what's important to highlight, Chairperson, what's important to highlight, Chair, is that we are reporting on 1920, which is a period that has passed indeed. And as the committee, you would recall that on a quarterly basis, we do come and provide feedback on the areas in terms of performance and financial performance of the organization. And what we've done here is really to put together some of those quarterly presentations and to provide a high-level synopsis of what transpired in terms of the 2019-2020 annual report. Chair, without wasting a lot of time, I want to say that the 2019-20 financial year was concluded at a time when the country was already experiencing the COVID-19 pandemic. And you'd recall that we are on the last quarter of the 2019-20 financial year when the pandemic hit us, and of course we went on a lockdown. And then of course COVID-19, and then of course we followed the lockdown, as I indicated. I think it's important to highlight that it did disrupt some of our targets that we had planned, especially for that particular quarter. And in some cases we were able to carry some of them through. In some cases we were not. So we must also highlight that we're presenting this report highlighting that we were concluding the work of the 5th administration, and we're in transition to the 6th administration when we were still in this financial year. So some of the areas would have been inherited from the previous administration, and we would be taking those through to the next administration, which is the current 6th administration. Of course, there were a number of challenges that hindered us in terms of performance, largely around the high levels of poverty and unemployment and inequality that continue to stretch the demand. And of course, with the advent of COVID-19, there were a number of increases in terms of social ills, especially gender-based violence, as I indicated. We saw also substance abuse, abuse of children, and many other social ills that come with this. But the important thing is that a demand was then placed on our services, and we had to work a little extra and put a little extra measures to try and ensure that we safeguard the lives of our people, particularly when it comes to food, and we had to prevent malnutrition and food insecurity in that regard. I think some of the other impacts, of course, was COVID, as I indicated. And in most cases, really, because we had to stop some of the work, it reversed some of the gains that we had actually put forward, that we had actually started making progress on. And so we had to amend a few things there. We can go to, I already indicated that some of these were shifted to the next financial year. Can we go to the next slide? I think what we're trying to show here, Chair, is the fact that this was one of our worst performances actually at the conclusion of 2019-20 financial year. It was one of the worst, one of the lowest achievements or performance of the organization in the past 4 years. But as you're aware, what we are presenting now, as I previously indicated, is the old year. A few weeks ago, we did present to the committee, and you would have seen that the performance has drastically shot up to just over 80%. And this picture that you're seeing here is now completely different, actually, in the next financial year, because we have improved quite significantly. I think the important thing, if you can go back, Thabani, to the previous slide, I just want to say one of the reasons, maybe two of the reasons, why the performance also dropped at the level that it did. We experienced a high level, or rather a very, very low morale in the organization. One of the reasons for that was that there was a moratorium that was placed on posts. And I think it was for a period of almost 2 years, if I'm not mistaken. And so people were disgruntled, etc. And it really affected the performance of the organization. But also, of course, as I indicated, we had COVID, but we also had a number of other challenges within the organization, which I think we've really moved past now, and we're really beginning to turn the corner in a very positive light. Hence, the performance that you would see for the previous quarter is actually at 81%. If you go to the next slide, Thabani. We're just highlighting here high level, indicating that we received a clean audit opinion from the AG in the 2019-20 financial year. And then the audit outcomes is, of course, an improvement from the previous year's audit outcomes. In that in 2018-19, we had a qualification, or some qualification. The financial statements improved again from 2018-19. There was no material findings or no material issues that were identified in the 2019-20 financial year. With regards to performance information, for the 8th consecutive year, the department reiterated its unqualified audit outcomes and performance information. I think that's important to highlight. But there were some material misstatements in the annual report, which were subsequently corrected. And I think the important thing to highlight here is that we had put the audit action, the action plan together to ensure that we don't, that we firstly respond to the issues that were raised by the AG, to ensure, especially so that we don't have repeat findings on some of these. And I think in most cases, we've tried to deal with some of those challenges. There are still some stubborn areas that are a bit of a challenge, and we're trying to address those accordingly. Just to move to the next slide, I'll ask Thabani to speak to this slide.
Thank you. Thank you, DG. Thank you, Chairperson, and good morning to the Minister and all the honorable members of the Portfolio Committee. I think DG had already started indicating the fact that this work was concluding the work of the 5th administration, and this is what is demonstrated through this annual report. But also to as well say the fact that, of course, we did not fully achieve as we had planned because of some of the reasons that DG had shared. And however, it's important to note that there's been significant progress that has been made by now in some of the areas, which are some that I'll talk to. With regard to the IMST, our annual commitment was to integrate all the silo information systems. But of course, there were other challenges in terms of the recruitment resources for us to be able to conclude that, as DG had indicated, the department was still having a moratorium, so we couldn't get people as we had planned. Another area where we did not do well is with regard to the entity oversight. And honorable members would recall that this has been a challenge that has been concerning us, and is an issue that has been raised not only by yourself, but also by the AG in terms of strengthening our capacity on providing oversight, especially to the two entities, that is SAS and NDA. And what we have done, number one, through the portfolio approach that has been instilled by our honorable minister, as well as the extent to which we have moved this function to the DG's office, begin to bolster and be able to deal with this particular challenge. But in addition to that, currently we are finalizing the process of getting a resource that will assist the department until it builds the adequate system for it to perform this particular important function. With regards to an evaluation that we wanted to do, the department has been leading a social sector infrastructure program for the past 2-3 financial years, and it's not been evaluated. So the previous financial year, we had committed to do an evaluation, but because of some of the considerations, including the change of scope, this study was not concluded. But I'm happy to say currently the report has been finalized, which then is the work that happened outside the reporting period. On the finance, because we have a lag in terms of looking at the unqualified, making sure that we obtain an unqualified audit. We'll recall that in the 2018-19, the department had not done well because it achieved the qualified audit, which the outcome, as DG had shared earlier, has significantly improved as we had received the clean audit in the current financial year. The next part relates to the area of social security on the work that we could not conclude. There were some of the policy areas of work that we wanted to do, but we could not conclude. This includes the mandatory cover for retirement, disability and survivor benefits, and the work that we wanted to look at the informal sector in terms of voluntary inclusion of those, because of the consultations that we had to do, which were additional and at NEDLAC level, as well as the social assistance bill. This work could not be concluded because we do not finalize that particular work. On the white paper on social development, this was not done because we had planned to table this at cabinet in March 2020, and there was a cancellation of that cabinet meeting because of the obvious lockdown issues and the COVID that came around that particular period. We had had a commitment as well regarding the services children. There's two. Number one was to do the capacity on the National Plan of Action for Children to all the provinces. It was only Northern Cape that we could not conclude. And also on the Children's Amendment Bill area, we did not conclude, but all these areas, as I said, there's been significant progress. On social crime prevention program, we did not fully meet as we had anticipated in terms of our white paper, because we realized that the work that we wanted to be done on the white paper in terms of the counseling as well as the revision exercises, it required the services of an expert, and those people that we could not get, whilst they are difficult as well to obtain, they were not in the National Treasury Central database, so we could not then be able to get the services of those particular experts that will have assisted us. There were some of the challenges with regards to the work that we wanted to do on the rights of persons with disabilities. Is one of the areas that we tried, and this was mainly affected by the NMEC process, because some of the officials that were with the department had moved to the new department on women, children, and persons with disabilities. So that area was hugely affected as well. On the NPO space, as well as on the EPW first, because we are coordinating nationally, and we had hoped that all the provincial departments will have assisted us to complete all the business plans. But it was only 5 out of 9 that were able to sign off, and so that particular target was not fully met. On NPO, we could not process all the applications and all the reports, the compliance report, as we had hoped. And at times, I think we were just overambitious on thinking that we'll be able to attain 100%. It was only 97.7. On the compliance in terms of reports, because of the Know Your Status report, it then pushed and increased the numbers beyond the capacity that we had for us to be able to process those. Now, Chairperson and honorable members, we had made significant attempts to try and adhere to the guidance that we've been receiving in terms of how we need to provide the reporting. You will see here we are trying to really portray the extent to which we want to reduce a particular or deal with a particular problem, and also indicate the impact that we would have made as a result of that function. On social assistance, the South African government, in its effort to try and reduce level of income poverty and inequality, it then tries to do that by expanding the access social security provision through the monthly transfers of income in terms of grant to particular household individuals. So in the previous financial year, it was over 190 billion that was transferred to SASSA from DSD. That was between April 2019 and 2020. And because of those transfers, we were able to make sure that we are reducing the poverty and levels, as well as we are able to contribute towards the reduction of income poverty, as well as inequality in the country. And there's already empirical evidence that begins to demonstrate the extent to which the child support grant in particular improves the school attendance and as well as contributes significantly towards educational attainment as well as the food provision. And so these are just the impacts that as we provide these grants, we are able to make directly. The area that we are also having within Social Security, which is now Program 3, is the regards to the various policy instruments that we are wanting to have and develop in terms of the policies. One of the key areas of work that we had committed ourselves so that we make sure that we've got a very efficient social security system that protects the poor and vulnerable, we had committed ourselves to do two works. One is on development of a discussion paper that begins to link the child support grant beneficiaries with government services. And this was completed. And as a result of this, the direct impact that we've been having is to make sure that we're able to harness the development nature of the social security system by making sure that we empower beneficiaries with both finance as well as the services, so that they're not only receiving money, but also they also have access to other government services, so that we put a much more resilient beneficiary. These are some of the areas that I will not go through in terms of the detail, in terms of the other impacts that we've done. The second area as well within social security was to draft the regulation that will support the implementation of social security assistance. This is mainly regarding our work within the foster care system as well as the support to orphans. And these were completed by the end of the financial year. And as a result of this work, we've able that we reduce the congestion within the foster care system. We are able to provide for an increased support to orphans and improve access as well to the appeals processes, especially in that particular space. So that was the Program 3. Now moving to also on Program 4, in terms of the professions services. What we had wanted to do was to develop a framework for the social development bill. It's the work that we've been reporting on. There's a department we are trying to move towards having a social development act, and part of it is about the white paper that we have to develop on social development bill. And this work, once it's concluded, we are sure that because it's been completed, it's beginning to shift and reposition our department towards a much more developmental agenda that it seeks to attain as espoused by the National Development Plan. On children's services, there are a few areas of work that we wanted to do. Number one was for us to try and build capacity on the guidelines for community-based prevention, early intervention services. And we were targeting to train the child and youth care workers. And as a result of this capacity building session that we were able to launch in all the provinces, 6,773 child and youth care workers were able to be trained on how to manage and provide prevention, early intervention, protection services. As a result of those training of that particular capacity, over 500,000 children were able to be provided with these particular services, which is a significant impact that we wanted to make. The second area is regarding on children's services, regarding the early childhood development model, early childhood development program. What we wanted to do as a commitment in the previous financial year, in order to make sure that we strengthen our child protection services as well as improve the quality of our childhood services, was for us to conduct an analysis of all the ECD service delivery models. And this is as we're able to do. And once, because this has been completed, it begins to give us, to serve as a basis for us to develop our own ECD service delivery model. And that will be able to assist the government towards a universal provision of access towards a quality as well as affordable ECD services as espoused in the National Development Plan. On our efforts to deal with issues of incidences so that we reduce them, incidences of social crime as well as substance abuse, and able to provide support, especially to support services to the target groups. One of the areas that we wanted to do was to build capacity on the anti-gangsterism strategy. And by the end of the financial year, the reporting period, we've been able to train personnel on the Limpopo, KZN, Northern Cape, and Mpumalanga. And as a result of the training, our personnel and officials that are in the provinces now have been well equipped with the skills and capacity to be able to identify the threats, the risk factors, and able to say which are those children that are already involved in gangs and are able to assess and profile them. And part of the report that we're beginning to see, even from as reported in the second quarter by the Honorable Minister of Police, is to note the reduction as well, which is significant on social crime as well as the substance abuse in some of the areas. Another area that is important is with regards to our fight towards substance abuse and contribute towards it, is the work that we wanted to do, and we are grateful that in October 2019, Cabinet then finally approved our National Drug Master Plan for 2019-2024. And this has assisted us in making sure that as national departments, it begins to outline what each role and what is a control in terms of the drug control space, and it begins to set out exactly what is each contribution of each stakeholder as we are involved. This is it revolves multi sectors, including other government departments. Also, on social crime prevention, there was work that we wanted to do in terms of the treatment, because it's also about providing support services to target group. So we were able to train officials, especially those are working in public treatment centers in the provinces in KZN, Gauteng, Free State, Mpumalanga, as well as Eastern Cape. And we were able to pilot the framework as a result of this, and this has assisted us that we improve the quality of our services that we are providing, not just only improve them, but also standardizing across all the public treatment centers that we have in the country. One of the areas on the space of HIV and AIDS, as a department, we want to make sure that we are able to contribute towards the reduction of risky behavior and able to promote psychosocial services as we provide. In the reporting period, a total of almost 600 social service professionals were trained in all the provinces, and they've been provided with adequate skills in terms of psychosocial support. And this intervention begins to contribute towards the UNAIDS in terms of the 1990 strategy to make sure that the 90% of our people are on treatment, 90% of our people are on treatment, and then the 90% of people have been tested. So this is what is espoused in terms of the UN ambitions on the 1990 strategy. On persons with disabilities, only one area in terms of the awareness campaigns that we were able to do. This is still in line in terms of the impact on promoting and protecting of the rights of persons with disabilities. On population development, we were able to influence, because our main aim here is to make sure that we provide and promote the support on the implementation of what we have in the country, which is called a population policy. And this policy ensures that we are able to establish effective mechanisms for the collection, analysis of data, especially those demographic ones, so that we know exactly what is happening within the population dynamics, be either a mortality, fertility, as well as a migration patterns. So this assists us as government to be able to do and formulate policies and plan better, as well as making sure that we're able to monitor what is happening in this. In the area of NPO funding, because we want to influence the space so that we are able to create an enabling environment for all the NPOs so that they're able to deliver effective services working together with government. We have been able to complete the work that we wanted to do in terms of facilitating of funding policy. And as a result, this work has well been done on this space. Another area was also not just about funding, but we wanted also to develop a DSD NPO partnership model, and we want to make sure that once it's done, or it's begin to improve the relations and efficiencies in terms of the funding as well as the delivery of social service that you have. There were a few areas of work as well in terms of the interventions, such as providing training and developing the practice policies that will assist the community development practitioners. We were able to reach about 3,000 of them, and they have now been capacitated, and it is in line in terms of our number one priority is government of building a government of building a capable and developmental state. So we're able to reach about 3,000 of those community development practitioners. And finally, on the youth, we were able to implement the youth strategy and to make sure that our young people are active and vibrant young people, and they participate as well within the developmental agenda of our country. And on community mobilization, these are some of the areas. The last part is with regards to the food. You will see here, Chairperson, that there's been almost a double beyond what we had targeted. We had only targeted to provide food to individuals of about 415, and it was mainly about over 800 that were able to be reached. And there's been a serious impact of this. Number one, there are people who have been able, who are about 1,380 that were employed as a result of the food distribution processes that we have in terms of the structures, including the CNTCs as well as the provincial food distribution centers. And also we've been able to make sure that the money goes to the rightful people. So these SMMEs have benefited as well as the cooperative have benefited from this process, and the amount is over 12 million. And that's where I'll end, and then I'll ask my colleague, the CFO, to in a few minutes just take us through the financial outlook of the previous financial year. Thank you, Chairperson and DG.
Good morning, Minister, honourable members, colleagues, Chairperson. Yes, looking at the prior financial year expenditure, unfortunately COVID made also our numbers a little bit skewed for the prior financial year. As you could see on that first slide, we've got 108% spending. If we go to the next slide, we will go into the various programs and give details to that. Who's managing the slides? Can I just go to the next slide, please? Who's controlling? Tabani? Thank you. So in terms of program 1, we only had a small deviation of 486. The social assistance has got that 15 billion over expenditure, and when we get to the next slide, I'll exactly explain why is the reasons for that specific over expenditure on program 2. No, go back. For social security, there's a 25 million underspending. For welfare services, a 92 million underspending. And then social policy integrated to 7 million underspending. So the next slide, when we explain the different reasons. Next slide. So the under expenditure under program 1, we overestimated in terms of the retirement benefits that if people retire or take early retirement, there was overestimation in terms of that. There was a small in terms of the transfers. The social assistance, 108% spending. We all know that COVID disaster was declared on the 27th of March. Then SASSA made a plea to the National Treasury to push back the payments for the 1st of April, which is actually for the next financial year, push it back to the prior financial year. The National Treasury approved that. Therefore, we paid the social grants on the 30th of March 2020. Because we didn't have the funding in the prior financial year, we had to go in overdraft. We had to regularize the specific over expenditure. And it's because of the accounting entries between 2 financial years that we couldn't push the funding for the next financial year back to the prior financial year. That's why it's recorded as an over expenditure of 15 billion rand. And Treasury will then regularize this expenditure in this financial year to ensure that the 15 billion is then basically the overdrawn is then regularized. In terms of social security, the 97% spending. There again, because of the social assistance bill that was passed only in this financial year, the appeals had slow in terms of litigation costs, but also the inspectorate in terms of the establishment was also held back because of the late approval of the social assistance bill. Next one. Can we go? Thank you. The welfare services, the 92 million, remember in October, November, there was a presidential announcement for a special project for GBV in terms of violence against women and children and femicide, which was then basically reprioritized within the space of the social development area. We've reprioritized 90 million for that purpose. when this was passed in cabinet, the full 92 million was then allocated for GBV, and we had to then basically ensure that we address the GBV in terms of this. So what happened is that part of this 92 million, 33 million was allocated for the appointment of the 200 social workers from December 2019 for the until the end of the financial year. That was for the 33 million of that. And then the 60 million, we've requested Treasury in the last quarter of the financial year that we could channel this 60 million towards one-stop centers. Unfortunately, they only granted us approval in May this year. So then the financial year has passed, and that full 92 million was then basically given back to National Treasury at the end of the financial year. Under social policy, it's basically operational spending, savings. Coming to the economic classification, let me explain quickly the COE, the compensation of employees, the 1.8 over expenditure. When we appointed 200 social workers, as I said, the 33 million was supposed to be added to this allocation. Because of the timing of the adjusted estimates, Treasury allocated that full 90 million to the goods and services. Therefore, we couldn't take the 33 million to the compensation of employees. They've advised us that we could do that at financial year end. And therefore, at financial year end, we've paid for the establishment of the department as well as the 200 social workers. And when we had under other expenditure of 1.8 million, we requested Treasury to shift some money from goods and services to regularize our COE spending. They unfortunately didn't approve that because they said the expenditure already incurred and therefore they cannot give backdated approval. Then on goods and services, the 117, I think we can explain it the next slide in terms of that. Looking at the goods and services on the social security, the 90 million that you see there relates to the late or the social assistance bill that wasn't approved in the prior financial year. It also relates basically that's got an impact on the socialist inspectorate that was not established, as well as litigation costs related to appeals. And then welfare services, I've already explained the 92 million. When I did welfare services, the whole explanation of the 33 million and the 60 million that was for the establishment of the Kusaleka one-stop centers. We've requested National Treasury and they've only granted that in May this year. Next. Under transfers and subsidies, there's two organizations that we didn't transfer in terms of the 1920 financial year because of non-compliance and due diligence. So we were not able to transfer this to that specific. One is the Albinism Society of SA, 845, and also the ABBA Specialist Adoptions and Social Services, 1.2. Both of these organizations has been not funded in this financial year as well, so because of non-compliance. Under households, there's the explanation of the social grants that we've paid on the 30th of March. And as I said, that it was recorded in our financial statements as such, the National Treasury has regularized it. Next, I think I'm done.
Chair, thank you very much. This concludes our presentation, Chair. But I thought let me just embed one point just to show and highlight that we are listening to the wisdom and the guidance of the committee. You will note the way in which we've changed our presentations completely now. We are speaking to the problem statement, what we want to do, or rather the challenge that we want to address through our interventions. Then we are speaking to the target of the intervention. This speaks to the what, the specific program that we want to implement. And then we specifically pay attention to the impact of the intervention. That speaks mainly to the difference that our intervention will make in terms of improving the lives of our people. So we've changed the manner in which we present the presentation, specifically coming from the wisdom and the guidance of the committee. And we want to say that maybe what we'll do going forward is begin to break down a little bit more in terms of where these interventions may have been per province, per district, and show the impact that has a ripple effect on other areas of development within those specific areas as well. Chairperson, thank you very much. This concludes our presentation. I would like to then ask the CEO of SASSA to come through.
Chairperson, good morning. Good morning to the members. Minister, good morning to you. In terms of the process that we will use for the SASSA presentation, I'll do the high-level view, which just indicates as to what the performance was at the end of the financial year, and then SIPO will take us through to the detail, and the CFO will do the financial presentation. SIPO, can you go to the next slide? Chair, I think it's important that we highlight what our core business is and the context within which we were operating at the time of the performance, which was last year. Our key responsibility and core business is, again, to provide social assistance to South Africans who are unable to support themselves because of the challenges that we face, especially those that are related to poverty alleviation. The framework in which we operate is within it's impacted by the high levels of poverty, unemployment, disasters, which we also are responsible for in terms of contributing to the work of the other areas of business that contributes to those, particularly COGTA, that we support in instances where we have disasters. What we noted is that the unemployment rate in the country rose to 30.1% in the first quarter, which therefore impacted on the work that we do. The challenge in terms of service delivery that was affected at the time is the fact that we were under lockdown, which therefore meant that there was a challenge in terms of us making sure that we provide the support that we required. Hence, we currently have a huge backlog that we're trying to cover to make sure that we can deliver the service that we need to deliver to the people that require it. The National Disaster Regulation had a negative impact, as indicated earlier on, Chair, and this also impacted on some of the outreach programs that we're supposed to do in terms of ICROP to make sure that we continue to educate people on the services that we provide and where it is that they can get the services. So it drastically increased the need for SASSA services, particularly with regards to the issue of social relief packages. What we had to do at the time, because we had run out of funds in the previous year, we had to quickly make sure that we're able to provide the service because of the mere pressure that we experienced, particularly towards the end of the quarter, but also beginning of the new year. I think, Sipho, go to the next slide. This is basically the fact sheet in terms of the infrastructure that we have as an agency. We have about 8,000 staff members throughout the country, and these our people are deployed both in the regions and districts, and in some instances, we provide support in service points, and the service points where we provide support are done at different times, depending on what the community requirements are. In some instances, particularly now in the new year, what we found is that because most of the service points were actually closed, it affected a whole range of communities in terms of service delivery. But many of those are now beginning to come back because of the engagements with local municipalities that are beginning to open up in relation to those. In terms of the admin budget that we have, it's sitting at 7.7 billion, which we know over the next 3 years is going to be drastically reduced, which therefore means that we need to do a lot of work as quickly as we can to make sure that we focus on business re-engineering for us to make sure that we can impact as the budgets actually get reduced. Our customers, in terms of the people that we serve, include the older persons, persons with disabilities, and children. About 32% of the population is benefiting from the grants that we provide. And in terms of the transfers that we always get through from DSD, it's about 175 billion. It's very important to highlight the issue that was raised by the CFO in relation to what is referred to as the over expenditure. It's important to note that on the month of March, what we had to do was to pay clients earlier as we started implementing the process of staggering, and that is what impacted on what in terms of the book is regarded as over expenditure, but it's money that was going to be paid only on the 1st of April. Can you go to the next slide, Sipho? Chair, through you, it's important to indicate where our performance is currently was sitting at the end of the financial year, that we've continued to improve in terms of making sure that we get an unqualified audit coming from a process whereby in 2017-18, our performance level was sitting at a very low level of 64%. We've improved to 74% in the current year and also in the previous year. And the challenge that we had was more in the last part of the quarter, which impacted on us getting 74%. We're working very hard with the team to make sure that we continue to improve on these, to make sure that we deliver on all the targets that we set for ourselves, and so that we can make sure that the changes that we need to make are impacted on as quickly as possible, and that we impact the lives of the people that we serve in a better way using different systems and processes as we implement the changes that we need to implement. The next slide, Sipho. Chair, it's important to highlight the areas that impacted on us and not being able to achieve the targets that we had intended to. And the first part being the fact that with regards to the SRD rand value that we normally disperse towards cooperatives and SMMEs, that at the time when the year ended, the commitment to spending, much as it's 30%, the actual payment had not all been done, hence we indicated a shortfall. The social grant reviews, which are critical for us in terms of ensuring that we continue to pay the right client at the right time, could not all be done because clients were not able to trace all the clients manually for them to come through for the assessments. With us implementing different systems, clients will in future be able to make these changes themselves where they are, so that you don't have to expect the clients to actually come through to our offices, and this impacts on them in terms of creating inconvenience. On the biometric enrollment, it's also another critical project in terms of our strategy that is also going to help us not only make sure that we manage the issue of fraud in our environment, but also making sure that we know who our clients are on a continuous basis, because we have their biometric enrollment. The idea was for us to continue and complete the process for our staff, and subsequent to that for us to go to the clients and make sure that we also take the biometrics of our clients, because over the past 2.5 years, all the clients that are new clients, we don't have their biometric data yet. In the past, this was part of the process. So we have the old clients in our system, but not the new clients. On iCrop, it's again another program that we use to go to communities in terms of looking at ensuring that our communities understand what their rights are and making sure that we explain to them what the processes are. And we're re-looking at how we do iCrop in terms of the minister's strategic intent for us to make sure that we're able to, in future, reach our clients street by street, community by community, in terms of what it is that we engage them through in terms of our communication. So over the next few years, the way we do iCrop is going to significantly change. With regards to cash pay points, as the community may be aware, in the past we had more than 10,000 cash pay points because we used to pay people by cash in communities. And when we converted to pay people by card so that they can be able to access their money everywhere, every time, we've then since reduced the number of cash pay points. But here, the one that we actually was affected is the one in Northwest region, because the number in that particular area was not monitored, because the issue of monitoring the cash pay points becomes of critical importance so that we can actually take the need where it is, whilst we continue to make sure that we enable our clients to be able to get money where they can get the money. Chair, I want to leave it at that and hand over to Sipho to take us through the details. Thank you very much, Chair. Sipho, you can continue.
Thank you, CEO, and good morning to the Minister, good morning to the Chairperson and the members of the joint committees. I'm going to continue from where the CEO has left and deal with the details in terms of the actual annual performance plan of SASSA for the period that we are reviewing. We will start, Honorable Chairperson, with the core business of SASSA. SASSA has got two programs, which is Program 1 for administration and Program 2 that deals specifically with the core business. And my presentation will start with the core business of SASSA firstly. And on an annual basis, not even annual, regularly, Chairperson, SASSA, the Department of Social Development and National Treasury, they sit together, do projections in terms of the growth of the social grants, including projections around the budget. And for this period that we are reporting to you, Chair, a projection was made that the social grants will grow to 18.166 million, and a budget of 175 will be required. And by the end of the period, Chair, we noted that the projection was a little bit exceeded, also including the budget. But the issue of the budget, I'm not going to dwell on it because the CEO and the CFO of the Social Development Department has already alluded to it. But mainly, Chair, this intervention is made towards the poverty alleviation. So the entire social assistance program contributes directly towards the poverty alleviation. And this slide, Chair, it shows the number of social grants, the 18.290 that we are talking about, proportional to the population of each province. So you can see where the 32% that we're talking about, to say about 32% of the population is benefiting from social assistance. You can see that from the Eastern Cape, about 43%. You can see that Limpopo has got about 44% proportional to their population. And also, if you look at the table next to it, it shows the disintegration in terms of the beneficiaries, in terms of the grant types, how we arrive at the 18.290 million. The next slide, Chair, speaks to the social relief of distress, which the CEO also highlighted on it, and the impact of the SRD, Chairperson, is to try and help individuals and families who are experiencing temporary distress to at least meet their basic needs, because this is an immediate relief that SASSA give to the individuals and families. And for this period, Chair, we had planned that at least about 252,833 hours are given to individuals and families at a cost of 410 million. And you will notice that we are really not proud that the numbers are exceeded, and it tells you that our people, our citizens are going through a lot. When you see that 344,000 people were given these awards in different forms, from cash, from the food, from the uniform, and the vouchers. And you will notice that the expenditure, as well as CEO has spoken to it, because the expenditure in total was about 440 million committed at the end of the year, but then actual that was paid was 402. And based on that 402, that's where we calculate the 30% that goes to the SMMEs and cooperatives. And about 78 million of that went to the SMMEs and cooperatives chair. However, the entire commitment in terms of that particular indicator that SASSA has put itself, the commitment was above the 30%, but the actual is the one that was 19%. The next one, Chair, still within the social assistance program, we targeting specifically the under ones, the 0 to 1 year old children, to make sure that what impact we want to make, they want to make sure that we put them on social assistance as early as possible, so that we contribute positively to their long-term growth and development. And that has been proven through research that if you assist them early, you contribute positively, Chair. And you will see that at least by end of March, 54.33% of the eligible children were in receipt of the social grants. This number, Chair, it is an improvement. If you look at where we're coming from 2014, this number was way below 40%. It was about 39, and it has been growing with all the interventions that SASSA is making, working together with the clinics, Department of Health, Education, and everybody. That has been growing from the 39% to 54 at the end of March 2020. Then there's the issue of the reviews, Chair. CEO spoke to the reviews as well, as one of the areas that we couldn't get 100% of what we had targeted. But the main aim why we are doing the reviews is to make sure, Chair, that social grants beneficiaries who still qualify for benefits are retained, and those who their financial medical circumstances have changed and do not qualify anymore are removed from the system. Hence, we are saying the objective is to make sure that those that qualify, we include them. Those that do not qualify, we exclude. Hence, the issue of the reviews, both from the foster care grant as well as the general grants in terms of administrative and medical. Within the social assistance grants, still, Chair, you will notice that our target, again, in relation to the projections that we make regularly, we had projected that at least 1.6 people will come to SASSA as a projection. However, that projection again was slightly exceeded. You will notice that about 1.725 million applicants came to SASSA, and out of the 1.561 were approved, Chair, and about 163,000 were declined with various reasons. And as you know, Chair, the citizens, they've got a platform where they can launch appeals to make sure that their applications are reviewed. And then in the second one deals with the turnaround time. We're trying to make sure that we do the application as quick as possible, Chair. You will notice that our target is actually to say, let's do the applications within or even less 10 days, Chair. And by end of March, 99%, about 1.713 of the 1.725 were done within the 10 days. And most important, it's the 86.3%, which were done in 1 day. They were completed, and people got their approval letters on the same day, and that is about 86% of those, Chair. And then the iCrop, again, CEO spoke to it, and you will notice, Chair, that we want to get to communities, the poor wards, where people are not able to access the services. We want to get there through our mobile trucks and make sure that we mobilize other departments as well as we go into those communities. And the target there was 400 wards that were targeted, and 399, which was slightly, and we have indicated that when CEO was presenting to say this was because of the COVID and the disaster that was pronounced by the president late in March, where large gatherings had to be stopped. So there were a few that were stopped in Gauteng specifically, and those ones affected this one, Honorable Chair. Then, with regard to the management of the service provider that is responsible for the payment of social assistance, which is SAPO, we are saying, Chair, by the end of March, in terms of our monitoring of the collaboration agreement with SAPO, we are happy to note that at the end of March, 71% of the grants were paid through SAPO, and the 29%, which is about 3.2 million, were paid through the different commercial banks. And we are saying this agreement with SAPO, Chair, it is reviewed regularly to make sure that wherever we need to improve certain things, things are improved. And with regard to the pay points, CEO also spoke to it. I will not dwell on it. And then now going to Program 1, Chair. Program 1 deals with strengthening SASSA as an organization to make sure that we have a strong SASSA that can deliver on the mandate. Here we're dealing with issues of governance, we're dealing with issues of efficiencies, and you will notice that as I present the few slides that are remaining. The first issue that we're dealing with in terms of governance, we're dealing with issues of fraud, and the fraud that we're talking about happens on both environments, SAPO environment and SASSA environment. And those that are within the SASSA environment were able to investigate. And we are saying during this period, 450 cases were finalized, and 56 of those were referred to law enforcement. And as part of improving the environment as well, we had to review our strategy, and that strategy was reviewed to make sure that we strengthen the preventative elements, and we make sure that we invest in fraud detection using technology. And then issues, Chair, in terms of our risk register, we had a risk register that had identified a number of risks, and we were able to try and mitigate these risks. And as you know, that a risk register is a live document, as and when there are risks that are emerging, and risks are considered and included in the register. With regard to the internal audit, Chair, still within governance, we had targeted at least 20 internal audit reviews on areas that we consider to be high risk. And for the period that all reviews were done, and these are the areas which were reviewed, including asset management, including the grant debtors, the financial statements, and the list, Chair, is in the slide. Again, with regard to governance, again, Chair, and the issues of consequence management, as SASSA, there are about 3 areas where we contribute towards the objective to improve consequence management. 1, we deal with issues of labor relations cases. 2, we deal with financial misconduct cases. And thirdly, it's still financial misconduct cases, but those that are coming from the previous years. And this is the status, Chair, as at the 31 of March 2020. And you will notice that in the first one, we're talking about 60%, and there was 68% that was done. And the second one, we had targeted 60% in terms of the financial misconduct cases, and which are the current ones. And that target was also exceeded. And then the impact, Chair, you can notice that we are saying implementation as regarded as generally slow. SASSA is starting to make progress, and the intention is to instill culture of discipline and accountability across the board within the organization. Then with regard to the issues of efficiency, Chair, we needed to do interfaces with other state organs. And specifically for this year that we're reporting, we had targeted issues around to interface with SAPO, to interface with BankServe and DSD. And the interfaces that we were able to do, Chair, are able to help us, particularly with SAPO, to assist SASSA to access payment information for reconciliation purposes. And the one with BankServe, it's also helping us to interface to provide a platform for exchange of payment information. And the one on DSD is helping us to exchange beneficiary details, particularly during the appeals that the citizens have a right to appeal, and therefore that information should be able to exchange. And with regard to automation, there's issues around scanning, Chair, so that we make sure that the beneficiary records are recorded and are filed electronically. And this was able to happen in 5 regions, which was in the Free State, in Gauteng, Mpumalanga, Northwest, and the Western Cape. And then also the third one is the automation of the grants reports. And we're saying the grants reports requirements were reviewed mainly to incorporate payment aspects of SAPO, as now SAPO is the key stakeholder in the payment space. And therefore it was important that we automate and incorporate the SAPO aspect. This slide, Chair, speaks again to the automation. And here we're talking about the eForms applications and the network connectivity. As we automate, Chair, we want to make sure that automation of the application form allows beneficiary flexibility and reduce the use of paper and contribute to cost effectiveness. Because now the applications had to be done on paper, signed, and then signed by both SASSA official and the applicant. But if everything is done electronically, Chair, we will be able to say, once the form is electronically completed and the beneficiary can sign electronically as well, so we will not be printing, and as well that will assist us in saving a lot of money. And then the connectivity, we want to upgrade our infrastructure so that we can accommodate latest ICT development and improve the speed for grant processing, so that one day, Chair, becomes 100%. We are able to do all the applications within one day. And the queue management, it's coming not for the first time, Chair, and we're saying this system is anticipated to improve the time spent by beneficiaries in the SASSA offices and be able to monitor that. At the end of the day, you will be able to say how many people came in for what service and what time they spent in the offices. The biometrics CEO spoke to it as well. And for this year, we tried to make sure that we highlight areas in terms of the risk that we identified and the fraud that we identified. And the areas that we identified were four provinces: Gauteng, KZN, Eastern Cape, and Mpumalanga. And that was done.
Caution you on time.
Chair, through you, I wanted to request a CPOR to stop at this point so that we can ensure that we can also deal with the financial stuff. The CFO will actually deal with it at a high level so that we can give the members an opportunity to ask questions. Thank you very much, Chair. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks. CFO.
Thank you, CEO, and good morning, Minister, and good morning, Honorable Chairpersons and Honorable members of both the Portfolio Committee and the Select Committee. As I've been requested by the CEO just to deal with the finance for the agency for the year 2019-20, the slide that has been projected indicates that we have got 100% spending for the year 2019-20. And of note, you will realize that the admin, we're only having 2 programs within SASSA, and the administration and a benefit administration. So the administration we spend at 90% and benefit administration at 106%. You will note that SASSA is on accrual accounting, reporting in terms of the GRAP standard, and therefore we need to recognize the non-cash items. The 713 million, it's inclusive of depreciation amount and also the impairment amount relating to the 316 million that we're recovering from CPS, together with the interest thereof. So that is what makes the 713 million. Next slide, please. In this slide, I think of note, Chair, it's only just to realize that part of the baseline for SASSA for the year 2019-20 has been reduced by 60 million. And the 60 million was utilized for the gender-based violence under the guidance of the Department of Social Development. I've already spoken to the rest of the other things. Next slide. I think this will just give us a summary of where we were and what was the impact, why we did not spend on COE. We had a moratorium in the year 2018-19, and in 1920, we gradually started to lift the moratorium, especially on critical areas like supply chain management. And therefore, we did not fill all the intended posts. Under goods and services, the bulk of the money that we use to pay for the services of SAPO, actually it is spent largely around the national payment system, because most of the beneficiaries currently prefer to get their money through the national payment infrastructure. And hence we realized a savings under the handling fees. If the beneficiaries have chosen to receive the money over the counter services or more around the traditional cash pay point, we'll have spent a bit more. Next slide. The rest of the other operating activities like communication, like the use of consultant, like traveling, were well managed, and therefore we have realized savings around those areas. The next slide. This slide, just to confirm, Chair, that SASSA is in a good financial health. When we closed the year 2019-20, we closed with a surplus of 744 million. We had 2.9 billion, which is the cash and cash equivalent, which is the bank balance of 2.9 billion. Of that amount, we have applied to Treasury that we can keep 1.1 billion, almost 1.2 billion, and surrender 572 million in terms of what Treasury requires of any agency, that we can't keep the surplus cash without an application. We are currently in engagement, Chair, with National Treasury. They said of the 1.7 billion retained surplus declared for the year 1920, they requested us that we should pay back 1.4 billion of that amount into the revenue fund. We have engaged with them because there's some of the projects that we are currently implementing. We have not concluded this kind of a discussion, Chair. Next slide. This will just give the summary of the audit outcome. I think the CEO has already spoken about the slide number 35. I'm not going to dwell on it, but it may be important that I speak on slide number 36. The next slide. The next slide, what is of note is that you will see that the summary from the Auditor General's results indicate that there is improvement on internal assurance. Although we have not achieved the adequate oversight in relation to that, but there's been improvement in terms of the errors that indicate that kind of progress. But they also really indicated to us that of the other area that we reported to the committee previously, which is the quality of the financial statements submitted, then we have really seen a great improvement around that, because there were no material adjustment both for the performance information and the annual financial statement. However, Chair, we need to note that the AG did indicate that the issue around supply chain management, it's an area that needs our focus. Next slide. We decided to just to give the summary of the key findings in relation to expenditure management. And this is the issue to say the agency is reporting 102 million irregular expenditure for the year under review. And we are saying that to deal with that areas, we review the immovable property management policy and procedures and delegations, because the major risk of it, of the irregular expenditure was around office accommodation leases. And we are already dealing with a project of all expired leases. And we're reviewing the policies and procedures and include them in a repository, which means that the centralization of all policies is quite important just to create all inclusive policy hub for the organization, because SASSA operate, Honorable Chair, with 9 regions, about 44 district offices and 389 local offices with in excess of about 1,000 service points. So it is quite important that we improve in terms of that control environment for every official to know when you're looking for a policy procedure and a circular, where do you go? The next one was the procurement and contract management. And this was around the issues of the state of disaster, the national state of disaster. And bulk of what the AG has picked up are the transactions that were done between mid-March and during April. And we are saying for now, because we're no longer at the emergency state, we're not going to have applied the emergency delegations as we did under the national state of disaster. National Treasury has provided instruction note number 11 of 2021, which indicates that all procurement must revert back to the normal procurement processes that applied before the national state of disaster. We are already reviewing and implementing contract management guidelines in this regard. The third element is the consequence management that is reported by the AG. And what we've done was that during the year 1920, we started a project that we need to do an electronic financial management register. I can confirm, Chair, that around June, we have gone live with an electronic register that will assist us in tracking all the cases. And we are finalizing the appeal cases in that regard. We are also following the cases that are with National Treasury, because there is a sizable number of cases, 173 cases that over 100 million that are with National Treasury for condonation. And we are saying that we're fast-tracking the elements of disciplinary processes towards the end of March 2021. Next slide. I think we thought that it is important that we indicate that during the national state of disaster in the emergency around March, as I've spoken about it, this slide indicates the root causes of why some of the things happened, which the AG had a problem with. That was the issue of the evaluation of the social relief of distress, which happened under level 5, where many of the officials were already locked up in their own homes, and it was quite difficult to have all officials actually coming through to work at that time. The procurement of PPEs, Treasury issued a number of instruction notes, one after another, which actually affected the control environment at that particular point. But we have already asked Treasury for clarity in some of the instances where we're saying, in the event that I started a transaction with an existing regime, which is not repealed by the new instruction note, should I restart that transaction? So honorable members will note that part of the regular expenditure, we've put an amount of 7.2 million that relates to the possible irregular expenditure, waiting for the clarification from National Treasury, and will only be finalized during the year 2020-2021. I think I've already spoken to the rest of the other things. The next slide. I felt, Honorable Chair, that I can just indicate that we closed the year 2018-19 with 1.8 billion. So we opened with 1.8 billion for the 2019-20 of irregular expenditure. you will see that we have added 102 million of regular expenditure. We have managed to get condonation of 388 million, and we closed the year 2019-20 with 1.2 billion of regular expenditure. So we managed to clear about 600 million of regular expenditure through the processes. Next slide. The next slide, Chair, is to really brief the committee of actually what makes up the 102 million that we said we disclose as a regular expenditure. As I've already alluded to, the bulk of the amount relates to office accommodation, which is 57 million, and followed by medical assessments, for telecom contract, 26 million, and also the regular expenditure related to medical assessment of 13 million. So that's the breakdown of the 102 million that was disclosed in note number 31 in relation to the irregular expenditure. The bulk of the irregular expenditure, Chair, it relates to the previous years, which we are clearing based on the consequence management processes we undertaking. I think that will be my last slide, Honorable Chair.
Thank you very much, Chair. That concludes SASSA's briefing. I will now ask the CEO of the NDA to please quickly speak to the elements as it relates to the NDA. Thank you very much, Chair. CEO. Can we change over presentations quickly, colleagues, so that we can do the NDA one? Can you stop sharing, Sipo? Thank you. Ben, can you share the presentation for NDA? There we go. Thank you very much. CEO?
Thank you, DG. Good morning, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable members, and Honorable Minister and colleagues. We'll be quickly going through the annual report for NDA as requested. Here we are presenting, we'll take the high level. It will be in threefold. I'll take the overview high level. Mr. Morule, which is Ben, will take the details in terms of performance areas, and the CFO will take us through the financials, and that will be the end of our presentation. If I may start with the high performance highlights that we went through, as the DG did touch on that we're marking the end of the fifth administration, NDA did manage to revamp and up the game in terms of their programming on the area of civil society through service, through delivery model that we have on the civil society organizations. On the challenges that we're experiencing in terms of programming while we're delivering our services was a challenge in terms of reporting, where our technical descriptor indicators were not giving yield to us giving on the report that we had agreed upon, especially with regards to internal audit and auditor general. However, with the guidance and the counsel from the portfolio committee to say for this financial year, we must ensure that we liaise and get counsel from the AG as we craft our draft APP so that they will assist us in guiding the technical descriptors that will yield to the results that will confirm the performance. And through our integrated human resource management and development strategy plan, we were able to implement improved policies, tools, and processes for performance management. In the main, the challenged areas which we had experienced before was the area of HR. So the policies of HR, most of them were last reviewed in the 3, 4, 5 years, where instances where the colleagues or the staff would be impacted upon by such policies. So we see much improvement in such policies, and they were routed through the proper approval processes through the board. And mainly why I want to highlight the importance of such policy, they had to do a lot with the consequence management that needed to be implemented during the course of the year. And again, on this part of the improved policies, the main area that was challenged was the SCM area, since we didn't have a CFO at that time. So part of the bulk of the challenges in terms of non-compliance, as we'll see as we present, is based on the SCM non-compliance policies and implementation of such. And the high level of consequence management as identified in the previous financial year or was around the SCM and the HR. So these policies really assisted us to at least get to where we are now, where we've dealt with the areas with the help of the CFO, dealt with the areas of the SCM which were identified, and we have done a consolidated condonation to National Treasury. We are awaiting their report and their feedback. In terms of the implementation of the master plan systems, we were happy to implement that system through the CSO database and IMS system. This was aiming to automate key programmatic and service delivery orientated processes, and also through various ICT projects and solutions aimed at improving the business efficiencies within the NDA. What I need to emphasize on this one, Section 4 of our mandate as NDA Act requires us to have a database, a automated database, which would ensure that the national CSOs that we have in the country, they are reflected within that database, and we needed to have it being an interactive database. However, I think in our planning, we underestimated the task that will come with the compliance or the wanting to comply with the Act, because we're doing this database for the first time as the Act demands us to do. So we did manage to do the first phase and the second phase. However, we could not do the entire process to the implementation in its finality. We were able as well to increase the services to civil society organizations through implementation of CSO development model, which is the model that sees us to be in the community. We assist emerging NGOs with the registration with NPOs, the referrals where they need to register with cooperatives, and we capacitate, we strengthen their capacity, we formalize them, and we ensure that we put them in the database system for any other government department to be able to access the information on such civil society organization beyond the NPO database that the DSD has. And this has been aligned with district development model. So in the areas like the Waterberg, where the launch took place, is the areas which we had to prioritize just to ensure that the formalization and the capacity building around these areas were intensified. In fulfilling our mandate, we did manage to mobilize the 55.7 million in financials. However, the challenge here, the mandate will ask us to partner with donors, international donors, and other private business and government departments. However, when we interfaced with the PFMA, we found that there was a misalignment and a gray area between what Act allows us to do in raising these funds and these donations than that which a PFMA requires to do. In the main, we'll partner with the stakeholder, we'll partner with the donor that is prepared to implement. So we'll contract as per the NDA Act mandates us to do. And in those deliverables which we had agreed upon, we'll begin to implement. However, with the AG's processes, and they've discovered that that area was such a great area, which will result to us having to incorporate it to the review of the NDA mandate. With the guidance of the National Treasury, we've highlighted the areas where we need to realign the Act to that of the PFMA. And the counsel from the National Treasury was that if there is a misalignment in the gray area between the conflicting mandates, then the supreme legislation remains the PFMA, which is what we have since addressed with the team. With the NDA, we've further granted 153 CSOs in terms of grant funding. It might look like it's a small amount of CSOs which we managed to grant fund, but safe to say that the allocation that we get from the department, it's only 224 million, where we have to run administration and we have to fund and have to grant fund the civil society organizations that are in the forefront of fighting poverty. So with this 153 million, 153 CSOs that we have grant funded, they were the key who, upon our due diligence, we wanted to ensure that they get this funding, which is in the main from the allocation that only comes from social development. Whereas the NDA Act is broader than just getting funding or support from social development, we are able to get other fundings from the departments of other departments and other businesses. And safe to say that in my last comment on the partnerships where there is a conflicting areas within the legislation, we had been given 142 million by the UIF to implement on their behalf the LEP program, where we're seeing the UIF beneficiaries who were no longer in the employ. They wanted us to assist them on new venture creation so that they can be able to start up their own entrepreneurial programs and to start up their small businesses. So it's through that area where it was glaring that the legislation needs to be aligned correctly. And then in the fight against COVID-19, as DG had highlighted earlier to say, it was at the verge of the financial year where we had to cease our programs.
CEO, I'm sorry, my apologies, CEO. I just wanted to indicate that the presentation is not moving. If Ben could make the slides move as you're speaking, I'm so sorry.
Okay. Thank you, DG. Ben, please, if you can move the slides. I'm still on the first slide. Ben? Mr. Morule?
This is the first slide.
Excuse me, Chairperson, also, can you guys also be conscious of the time, please?
Okay, all right. No, this is the first page, Ben. Can you take to the page where key performance highlights? Thank you. On the fight against COVID, we had to quickly deploy the volunteers that are linked to civil society organizations that were assisting with the immediate food parcels, the support on elderly and disabled people who were had to access these services during the lockdown that was announced towards the end of March. And our research and evaluation activities were able to have policies and strategies that needed to be reviewed through the country, and we participated in the developmental aspirations and spout in the NDP. Ben, I'm in performance diagrams now. If you can move the slides. Mr. Morule? Can I take the chairperson and the committee to the page 5 of the presentation? Mr. Morule, please move the slide. Thank you.
Maybe let me suggest you continue, CEO, while we try and sort that one out.
Okay. With performance summary, Honorable Chairperson and members, we have had a unqualified audit opinion from the AG, and with the matters of emphasis, and we have a disclaimer in terms of performance, with as far as what I touched on earlier in terms of our technical descriptors, which were further challenged by the system, which could not be deployed in terms of the database. So we have 3 programs. We have program 1, program 2, and program 3. However, overall as an organization, we managed to achieve a 64% of achievement. I will now hand over to Mr. Morule to just quickly rush through program 1 in terms of the detailed performance areas. Mr. Morule.
Okay, thank you, CEO, and morning, members.
Please move your slide. Okay.
Yeah, it would seem that I have an issue with moving slides. I think just from my own computer. I'm not sure. Has it moved, members?
No.
Because on my side it's moving. May I request perhaps the colleagues to assist while I continue the presentation? It's locked. Colleagues, let me start with program 1 and a number of these KPIs. The CEO in her overall remark has already touched on them, but I think just to make a number of key points in relation to program 1. The first KPI being integrated HRM&D strategy developed. We have developed the key scale. Now the key scale was developed as a result of a number of remuneration anomalies within the NDA. But the idea was to reduce employment cost in comparison to the mandate expenses. We have over time come to a realization as NDA that our mandate expenditure is shrinking in comparison to our employment costs. So we want to arrest this particular status quo. So in the process, the key scale was developed. Now, this key scale in its development was dependent on the finalization of the job evaluation exercise, which actually took longer than anticipated, primarily due to extensive consultation internally with staff and the labor organizations, but also externally with the DPSA in particular, so that whatever final viable salary structure that we arrive at will be one that is based on modern remuneration norms and principles. So we have not achieved this particular indicator as a result. The second indicator is on integrated ICT system. And as the CEO has already said, this was in direct response to Section 4 of the NDA Act, which enjoins us to develop a CSO database and share it with relevant organs of state. The KPI itself was a dual KPI in the sense that first that needed to be developed by the CSO database, and second to that was the integrated information management system. The CSO database has been fully developed to an extent where it is currently being shared with a number of other departments, SASSA being one within the portfolio, but even outside the portfolio as well. Now, the part that has not been completed, which keeps us in the red, is the grant funding module. There's a number of modules, the modular system. Now, in this range of modules, the one module that has not been finalized is the grant funding one, particularly the integration of the grant funding module to the financial system. And this is primarily due to lengthy development process, particularly in relation to those other modules. The third KPI on program 1 is compliance to legislative and regulatory requirements. This is the KPI that assists us as an early warning system to identify a number of gaps in relation to governance and compliance requirements from various legislations that we need to comply to. We have not attained this one in the sense that we are sitting at 85%, but the work done in this particular area has actually greatly assisted us. For example, in the reduction of findings from the external audit process, from the OAG, where findings have reduced from 65 and to just below 40. So although we have not fully achieved this particular indicator, but a lot of work that has gone into it has actually assisted us in reducing these particular findings and responding to the AG findings raised in previous years. The key issue that led us to not achieving this is because largely of capacity constraints, and in quarter 2 and 3 we are unable to even submit our quarterly report. These capacity constraints and governance challenges has been fully addressed to a point where in this current financial year we have fully complied with our legislative requirements. I'm now going into program 2. The first KPI on program 2 is number of CSOs that participated in mobilization programs per year. The idea behind the indicator, just to address the object of change, it is to mobilize the communities to engage and participate in their own economic upliftment through formation of CSOs. We have fully achieved this particular indicator. This in the sense that we have interfaced, whether through face-to-face meetings, whether through community engagements, we have interfaced with a number of CSOs and community structures at a very local level. Now, the ultimate of this work, it is to make sure that we mobilize towards making sure that these community structures these community organizations that are existing in communities, they are able to reorganize themselves and be able to form themselves into formal structures that can access funding, that can access all forms of support and begin to operate economically, which leads to the next KPI, which is number of CSOs assisted to formalize their structures per year. Our target was 1,000 and we have exceeded this target by 8. This work, as I have said, the intention it is to ensure that there's access to funding and support, and ultimately to link CSOs to markets for the benefit of communities that they operate in. we have played a very key transformative role for this particular CSOs, because a number of them members would know that they operate loosely. There are no structures, there are no governance systems, and they do a lot of good work in the communities that they serve. So through formalization of these particular structures, we are able now to organize them, to organize this particular CSOs, to formally organize these particular CSOs, but in particular to make sure that they are able to access funding, accessing funding in relation to them be able to even start opening bank accounts, making representations in their local municipalities and traditional leaders to obtain land or promises for enhancement and advancement of their operations. So a number of funding support and technical support has thus been advanced to these particular organizations following formalization process. The next KPI is the number of CSOs trained to comply with registration legislations. We have had over a number of years a deregistration of CSOs, primarily because they did not comply to legislative requirements. Now, this is what this KPI seeks to arrest. We want to arrest that particular trend and turn it to a point where all these organizations that have been deregistered, we then interact with them so that we identify a number of compliance requirements that they need, a number of legislative requirements that they need to be complying with. So we have trained in excess of 5,000 CSOs on a number of different specific legislative provisions that apply to the sectors that they operate in. And we have trained them in those to make sure that they are re-registered and they get access to, to funding and support. In particular, there's a number of requirements, such as having to be able to submit an annual report, a financial report, and all of those were able to be advanced. And these organizations are able, as we speak, 5,000 of them, to be able to perform developmental programs in the areas, communities that they operate in. The next KPI is the number of CSOs capacitated in CSO management per year. We have not done well in respect of this indicator, particularly that, and one of the reasons that we have not achieved this particular indicator, it's because of the lengthy process. There was quite a lengthy process in making an assessment. We start our model by making an assessment of this particular organization. So the assessment process took longer than anticipated, but in the end, we were able to train 5,263 CSOs in organizational management. This is where we strengthen them with institutional capacities around financial and management skills to be able to operate their CSOs sustainably and to prevent further collapse in the future. And the key impact that we have realized in this particular work was that although we have trained 5,263 CSOs, we have actually trained double that number in terms of people that represented those CSOs. So the skill space of the civil society has thus increased by leaps and bounds if you look in terms of the individuals that have been trained. And the next KPI is the number of CSOs that receive grant funding per year. We have significantly exceeded this particular target. We are sitting by the end of the financial year at 153, and this is largely from even the volunteer program that we ran towards the end of the year in response to the COVID-19. But in particular, I think perhaps worthy of mentioning is that out of these 153, we have specifically targeted ECD centers, we have targeted household, community food gardens and smallholder farmers, and we've also targeted income-generating CSOs and cooperatives to make sure that they increase, their asset base in the respective communities that they operate in. The next KPI is rand value of resources raised per year. The target was to raise 55 million, and the CEO has spoken, I think, largely to this one. We have raised 55.7 million, just a rounded figure, and in particular, the greater amount of this fund was raised from the CARA fund, which members are fully aware of. Let me go to the next KPI, which is number of CSOs that have been referred to sustainable resource opportunities per year. We have exceeded the target, the 2,000 target, by 272. This KPI represents the ultimate of our CSO development model, where we link CSOs to to markets to make sure that they can expand their own business activities and even increase their disposable income. We as I said, we have significantly exceeded it, and we're able to link a number of CSOs to such economic opportunities that were available from our funders. And again, this relates to the CSO database that we have. Through the sharing of the CSO database with SASSA, with ESCOM, Mondi, SunParks, Hope Worldwide, which runs the KFC Corporate Social Investment Program, we're able to raise up to 26 million, and that's increasing household income of these particular CSOs. The next program, which is the last program, members, is research, which is program 3. And there are 4 KPIs in this particular one. The first one is number of research reports and policy briefs produced per year. We had a target of 16, and we have fully achieved this particular target. And there's a number of, I suppose, just for emphasis, there's a study that we did in poverty, inequalities, and social exclusion. Another one on early childhood policy and food and nutrition security policy. So these are a range of research topics that we have undertaken, research work that we have undertaken in the year under review, and out of this thing, we are dialoguing with civil society and other state organs to ensure that we continue to impact development policy through the implementation of this, the recommendations coming from this particular research. The next indicator is number of evaluation reports produced per year. This is a work that looks at how we do our own programs, how we implement our programs, and how we ought to be learning and even improving program redesign where necessary. So we have fully achieved this particular indicator or target, where I think in the 10th one that we did was in Northwest, and in that particular province, what we then did was to make sure that we have an evaluation on the capacity building program in relation to bakery projects. The last 2 indicators, members, is the number of knowledge management publications per year. We fully met this particular target where we are sitting at 15. And the very last one, before I hand over to the CFO, is the number of development policy dialogues and consultation sessions held per year. We're held back when the declaration of the state of disaster was made, to a point where the dialogues that were meant were not fully achieved. And I think maybe at this point I can then hand over to the CFO to be able to take us through the rest of the presentation. Thank you so much. My laptop is not working.
Okay. Speak here. I speak here. Where do I speak? Here.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Colleagues, we are really running out of time. We need to be as swift as possible, please.
Okay, sorry about that, DG. We're just having some technical problems on our side. So sorry about that. Good morning, Minister, Chair, and members and colleagues. I'm going to take you through the financials for the 2019-20 financial year. So I'm looking first at our income statement, our statement of financial performance. Yeah, and in terms of our total revenue that we received for the year, that was recorded at 240.8 million. And this is made up of mainly our transfer revenue of 212 million, as well as revenue from third-party funds of 24.9 million. We also received exchange revenue of mainly due to the management fees that we receive on our third-party funds of 2.6 million. Then in terms of our expenditure, this was recorded at 245.5 million for the year. And I'm just going to touch on the main expenditure relating firstly to our mandate expenses. So in terms of our grant funding, so the disbursements to the NDA funded projects, this was recorded at 10 million. In terms of our third-party funded capacity building, this relates mainly, this was recorded at 24.9 million, and this relates mainly to the UIF, the third-party funded skills training program run by the UIF relating to new venture creation. Then in terms of our third-party funded capacity, our CSO development program implementation costs, this was recorded at 8.7 million, and this relates mainly to our stakeholder engagements, ministerial events, and our CSO summits. And so our total, bringing our total mandated costs up to 131 million. Then in terms of our admin expenses, this was recorded and reported at 113.7 million, made up mainly of accommodation and travel, recording at 17.2 million, consulting and professional fees at 3.9 million. Our operating leases was recorded at 13.3 million. Our admin staff costs at 50.4 million. Our IT communication costs at 3.9 million. In terms of our relocation of offices, this was recorded at 1.4 million. And then in terms of our general expenses, this was recorded at 15.1 million. And what's sitting in general expenses, this mainly relates to our municipal charges at 3 million, printing and stationery at 1 million, software licenses at 3 million, marketing and communication at 1.8 million, our district office setup costs at 1.3 million, and our travel management charges at 1.4 million. Then in terms of the next slide. Then in terms of our assets, so our total assets, current assets was recorded at 53.9 million, made up mainly of our cash and cash equivalents at 51.6 million. We also had receivables from our exchange transactions. This is mainly made up of our rental deposits, and this is recorded at 1.8 million. In terms of our non-current assets, this was recorded at 9.2 million, made up mainly of property, plant, and equipment at 5.4 million, and intangible assets relating to the CSO database system of 3.8 million. Then in terms of our liabilities, our total liabilities were recorded at 45.3 million, and this was mainly made up of payables relating to our accruals and trade creditors, etc., at 6.5 million. Our provisions at 5.8 million, which relates mainly to the bonus provision. Our short-term employee benefits are recorded at 10.5 million, and this is mainly made up of leave at 9.7 million, and our 13 check provision at 780,000. Also sitting part of, recorded as part of total liabilities is our unutilized third-party funds, and this is all our donor funds recorded at 12.6 million. Then on to the next slide. This is mainly showing our statement of changes in net assets, and you'll see there the deficit that we recorded for the year of 4.6 million, and you will notice that in our statement of financial performance as well. And then on the next slide, this shows our cash flow statement for the year, and just indicates, and I think what is important to highlight here is the 10.4 million that we surrendered relating to the 18-19 financial year that we surrendered back to National Treasury. I think that completes the presentation, but just to highlight at a high level, so we received an unqualified opinion. I think the CEO did touch on it in relation to our financial statements, and a disclaimer opinion on the performance information that was reported. And then, and I think just important to highlight is that we had improvements. We reflected improvements in the quality of the submitted financial statements in terms of our financial health, our human resource management, as well as green status by the AG in terms of our record keeping, processing and reconciliations, as well as regular reporting, and as well as internal audit also received the status. So we do have a lot of areas in which we need to implement improvements, and we are addressing that currently with the turnaround strategy that we are busy developing, as well as a business case that we intend to present to National Treasury imminently. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, DG. Thank you, Chairperson. That is our end of our presentation.
Thank you very much, CEO. Chair, we're going to hand over back to you now. And we must apologize for taking such a long time. Chairperson, thank you.
I need to get somebody who can actually sign off on this.
Thank you, CF. Thank you, DG. And also thanks to the Minister. At this point in time, I will hand over to
Yeah, let's understand already.
Can we unmute all our mics, please? Can we mute our mics, please? At this point in time, I would hand over to Chairperson Kungubele. Thank you to the department and the agencies and to the Minister for your prompt presentations. Minister, thank you very, very much. I do appreciate that you spent such a long time with us, although you gave an indication that you must leave by 11. Over to you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Gillian. Thank you very much for our joint work. I'm happy that you've also allowed me in so that I can earn my salary for the day. And I just wanted to say to the minister, Jessica has been chastising me that you didn't know that this is a joint session. And I just wanted to let you know, when a joint session is there, it's not decided by any of the two committees. It is a directive from those who are above us. That's how they want it. Maybe I accept that we need to alert you when such developments occur, but our apology on that, Minister. The risk, therefore, of coming in the middle of the meeting, you stand a risk of repeating things that have been said. If they are repeated, they are just being strengthened. The mourning for the GBV and the pandemic. I'm sure the chair and the minister must have spoken about those. And appreciation of the leadership the minister is showing on the GBV campaign. And I hope I will issue a statement as a committee on that. But I thought before having thanked Honorable Gillian for having chaired this session, she was not acting. She was playing her part as a chair because we were together here. Yeah. And my apology for being late. I got disorganized. I thought I had calculated the time properly to land at the airport. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But quickly, before members ask their questions, because on the chart, I'll come to that before I call the members. But the first one is going to be Honorable Mtaum, Honorable Aris, Honorable Van der Merwe, Honorable Alexander, and Honorable Briat, and Honorable Manganye, Honorable Bilankulu. Because all presentations were lumped together, 6 minutes will be okay per member, so that when you are finished, we're done with everything. But I wanted to make this remark. I know the minister is going somewhere else. I thought it's important to make these comments. That we are very pleased, Minister, to say it appears that there are green shoots in the department. One, at a departmental level, there's a clean audit, and you seem to have reduced what I call, just a minute, come. You seem to have reduced dramatically the fruitless expenditure from 79 million the previous year to 6 million this year. That's a huge improvement. But the point is that unauthorized expenditure, even if it's R1, remains unaccepted. But the fact that it's from 79 to 6 million in that short space of time shows that there were huge interventions. We understand that, of course, but where we're a bit unhappy is that in the irregular expenditure, the reduction is from 224 to 147. That reduction is not necessarily satisfactory. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, and it finds expression in the entities that both NDA and SASSA. For instance, if you go to irregular expenditure, 295,000 is DST, 14 million is SASSA, 36 million is NDA. And then contravention of various procurement processes, 312 DST, 5 million SASSA, 3 million NDA. Unapproved contract extensions, DST 1.8 million, SASSA 84 million. That's an area which is just not good in spite of the improvements that we see happening, which we think they should be attended to. And again, there's an area where there's a 15 on the unauthorized expenditure. There's a 15 million in the DST. That 50 million seems to be explicable, Minister, because maybe your technical people can explain it, where they say a money that was allocated to a particular year got expended. It found itself being spent in I don't know whether that's 15 billion or 15 million, but your people need to explain that. I thought it's important to share with you, Minister, what General AG speaks as root causes. Slow or no response to improving key controls and addressing risk areas. SASSA and NDA are guilty there. Inadequate consequences for poor performance and transgressions. SASSA and NDA, slow or no response to improving key controls and addressing risk. My apology. There's an improvement there in this in SASSA and NDA. My apology there. Inadequate consequences for poor performance and transgressions. There is a deterioration there in SASSA and NDA on the inadequate consequences for poor performance and transgressions. Adequate action plans are not in place and or not monitored. NDA is deteriorating in that area. Instability or vacancies in key position, SASSA has improved in that area. I thought it's important, Minister, to speak about those areas. But another key area which I thought I want to speak, which both the Minister and DG must feel good about. This annual report, Minister, we spoke this as a committee when we were dealing with the second quarter report, that the performance language seems to be in the positive direction. And especially now in the annual report, where I wish they could show the presentation again, especially the DST presentation. Can somebody share it? Because there's one or two issues I want to speak about. DG, acting DG, can somebody?
Yes, we'll share it now. We'll share slide 26.
Yeah, that is for the revolution language. I forgot they say sharing. So it's sharing, yes, share. Yeah. Can you put it up, please?
Okay, I'm putting it up right now, Chair. You might
Share, please.
Sharing, Chair.
And if you can go DG straight to social security policy, whatever, that area, because I'll use it as an example.
Okay.
Because I'm not going to talk about all of them. Share. Somebody doesn't want to share.
There we go. Sharing now. Oh, sorry. The host has to enable me to share. Apologies.
They have disabled you.
Yeah.
You must enable the acting DG to share. Lindwe? Hey, yes, go home.
Lindy, we can study this.
There we go. It's sharing now.
Thank you very much.
Sorry
Let's
about that.
go to social security area.
There you are, Chair.
Social security.
Yes, can you see it now?
No, there's a social security section, not the social assistance.
Yeah, just trying to get the.
This one is social assistance.
Yeah.
Yes. I saw it. Yes. I'm just going to use this is an example. If you look there, I hope the minister is still there. I saw her still being present. Are you there, Minister?
Yes, I'm still here, Chairperson.
Thank you, Minister. Sorry for holding you. We start there, DG. There's a huge improvement on language. And I can tell you guys, if you move in this direction, no one is going to touch you next year. But there are still things that we need to sort out as we move in that direction. Because it's clear now, if Oversight Committee reads your report, they are able to critique it intelligently. Now, if you go there, it says problem statement, stroke, object of change. Those two acting DG are not supposed to go together. They are not, because they are not similar.
Yeah.
It means you must have a section. If you say, you must articulate the problem statement. If you say children's services, you must share with that what is the challenge there. And then after that, and say, what are the areas, object of change says, what are the areas where you must effect change, so that as we check your intervention, we're able to monitor where is the change. When you say object of change, which area in that problem area is supposed to be changed in order to move in the right direction. So in other words, you need to separate those two because they're not the same. But the fact that at least those two languages are all articulated, it's a great improvement, but we need to have two sections differently. But it's a wonderful thing. The fact that you are able to differentiate activities, where you are saying target intervention, what do you do? What did we do? It's the future activity and the past activity. And then you go to impact. In the impact, the last point I want to make there is that in the impact, you must articulate with us the results, not an activity. For instance, if you go to that social security, it says impact of the intervention. It says to develop a policy. That cannot be an impact. It's an activity that you intend to do. Impact is when you tell us what you want to realize. A lot of that language has been articulated very impressively in the report. But you mustn't confuse activities with the results that you are actually producing. And I thought I wanted to open in those positive words, Minister, that there are green shoots. The department is moving in the positive direction. But however, I'm happy that the minister is the issue of entity oversight in the department is a very critical issue. Because you can see, Minister, the department is pulling ahead in terms of management, but entities are they are dragging from behind, although they are unqualified, which is good, both of them, but they are slow behind the department. And my argument that if that entity oversight was in place and then meant by skilled people, so that there's a relationship there's an institutional relationship between the entities and the department to make sure that that oversight work by the department is institutionalized. The fact that it is not up until now, it finds expression in the state of the entities, in my view, Comrade Minister. It's something that the department, I think, needs to attend to. Again, I just want to make a quick land. If we can go to the M&E area, DG, M&E at the beginning, where you are making where no improvement, the areas where you are transparent. I'm impressed by this, by the way, Honorable Minister. Let's go the M&E. The M&E part. Yes. There's something I'm struggling to understand there. You are saying the evaluation of the social sector infrastructure did not commence on time as planned, as the scope of work had to be recosted. You are saying M&E is the heading, but under that heading, you are saying evaluation of sector infrastructure. The scope of the work was increased, and as a result, the evaluation timeframe had to be amended. Now, I'm not sure what you are talking about there. I'm not sure whether you're talking about you are developing M&E framework and you're explaining the progress to date, or whether you are talking to us about the evaluation of infrastructure. That is not clear at all. Maybe when you respond, you will assist in that. It is not clear at all. The other thing, Minister, where I think I want to defend the committee and I want the department to clarify that there's an attempt to say the bill was delayed in the parliamentary process, which I deny. Because we are the one in parliament who were fighting for the bill to come. And immediately when it came to us, when it was ready, we started working on it. And I think we should correct that. I think those are few issues. And the other issue area to CO, there's this thing, Minister, it says 100 and something billion, 7.7 billion admin budget. At first, because we're not working there, it looks huge. Can it be explained how 7.7 billion is an admin budget and what ratio it is to the transfers? Because transfers, I think, are 100 and something billion. What ratio, what is an acceptable ratio in as far as those issues are concerned? And of course, we appreciate, Minister, the lower non-performance in those cash payment policies are still existing. What is a plan to actually turn them around? I thought it was important this, but overall, Minister, I want to argue that there's a movement in the right direction. There are green shoots. Maybe in the order that I raised, honorable members, Honorable Mtaung, Honorable Aris, Honorable Van der Merwe, Honorable Abraham, Honorable Briet, can the members start? I said that time it will be beyond 6 to 7 minutes. I'm going to be tolerant because I think we lumped presentations together. Honorable Anastasia.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, ngicela ngokuthi ndibuya kugqirha ngikho right. So please bear with me. Thank you for the presentation.
Please, you must look after yourself, Honorable Mtaung.
Yes, Chair. I am, Chair, looking after myself. Chair, to the department, number one, in terms of, thank you, Chair. Chair, in terms of measuring the impact of output, what is the impact on the promotion and protection of the rights of persons with disabilities and the frameworks on disability rights awareness if the strengthening of the national disability rights machinery is suspended? Number two, to the NDA, how does the lack of available disaggregated job creation funding data for analysis mean for the assessment of the impact and financial performance of the NDA for its mandate? Number three, what are the impacts and performances management implications? Chair.
Commissioner.
Aye, somebody must mute. Aye, who is that one?
Hello, Kenny? Kenny?
Miss Malo. Can somebody speak to this individual? Who is this person? Somebody must mute.
Can I
Who
continue,
is not muting? Yes, proceed. My
Thank
apology
you.
on behalf of whoever is messing us up.
Okay, thanks, Chair.
Proceed,
Number
Honorable
three,
Mtaung.
okay, number three, Chair. What are the impact and performance management implications on the CSO development program if the target on the number of CSOs capacitated in CSO management per year was not met. And then to the NDA and SASSA, the financial health of NDA and SASSA in relation to asset management and liability and cash management are yet again areas of concern. What is it that needs to be done to ensure that they both move out of these persisting challenges? On the DSD annual report, with the performance trends over the medium-term strategic framework MTSF, in comparison to the previous years of the MTSF, what is the cause of the 2019-20 year having the highest percentage of targets unachieved and the lowest targets achieved? What impact does this have on the financial performance of the program concerned? On SASSA annual report, on SASSA annual report on the ICROP impact assessment conducted, what is the progress on the undertaking of the study? Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Mdau. Honorable Aris. Please, Honorable Mdau, you must attend to doctor, please, please.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Morning.
Honorable Aris.
Morning, Chair. Thank you for the presentation. Chair, can you hear me? Mine is on slide 3 in terms of DSD. They have indicated 51% of the targets was not achieved. I want to find out, because it was in 2019-2020, which means that it was a weak performance of the department, and that cannot be blamed on COVID because we have only because it was the end of the financial year, the end of March. And then they did also mention that the morale of the staff is low, and that is not a good enough excuse for the weak performances in the department. I could have actually said it's poor management that resulted in that 51% of the targets not achieved. And then in terms of slide 8, I would like to know the reason that the provinces did not provide the targeted reports. And then on slide 15, in terms of the anti-gangsterism strategy, I have noted that there are 3 provinces that they have do this anti-gangsterism strategy, but the biggest province with the biggest problem of gangsterism, the Western Cape, was excluded. So I would like to find out what the reason for that being. And then I have seen in terms of SASSA's presentation, I've seen that they must trace manually. They must just also give us that indication how many of the people must be traced manually. And then in terms of slide 8, there's the disciplinary hearings. If SASSA can give us an indication of how many of the disciplinary hearings is still outstanding. And then slide 21, only 24% I have seen of the cases of 288 of the 1,178 cases were finalized. And then when will this process be finalized? And how many of this 1,178 cases is still outstanding? And then in terms of the NDA, I have noted that 6 of the targets were reached from 12 targets that was there in terms of the dialogue and consultation session. And then it is also clear that, and it's very noticeable that the biggest chunk of these NDA's budget go to their employee, and a very limited of the budget is going to service delivery, which is really worrisome. And then also the spending on overtime of employees is also worrisome. Then in terms of fruitless and wasteful expenditure, within that 903 million for damaged cars, Chair, we need to get a report on this because this is really alarming. And then also in terms of the 200 social workers that has been appointed for GBV, if you break it down, it will be just plus minus 11 people per province, which is nothing, Chair, if we look at the pandemic, the GBV pandemic that the country currently facing, while only 33 million from the 92, we feel that more money could be used for that. And then in terms of the 68.5 million spent on consultation, consultants, we would like to know what change did this consultants bring and what was the benefit that it bring to the DSD. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Aris. Honorable Van der Merwe.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. And I want to say to the Minister at the outset that we stand in solidarity with her and her department as we mark 16 days of activism, and we will stand with her and give her assistance wherever she needs it. I would also like to agree with you that, Chairperson, under the leadership of the Minister, we are seeing some positive changes. There are indeed green shoots. But that being said, I think 51% of the targets not achieved by this department is a sad state of affairs. And I did hear the explanations by the ADG. But ultimately, when targets are not achieved, Chairperson, it means we didn't succeed in changing the lives of the people we are meant to assist. And I really do hope that there's a clear commitment and a clear plan to ensure that we do not repeat this dismal performance again. On the issue of entity oversight, which you also flagged, Chairperson, it is a bit confusing, this issue, and we need to get some clarity on this. Because Mr. Buthelezi says in his, Shengi says in his presentation that they struggled with entity oversight. But yet throughout the year, we were assured by the department through the various presentations that they gave us that they're improving in terms of entity oversight. But yet, like you've highlighted, again, the AG flagged NDA and SASSA for shortcomings in terms of their failures to prevent irregular, fruitless and wasteful expenditure, supply chain management issues, and in particular, consequence management. So we need a clear indication as to, ultimately, the buck stops with the ADG and the Minister. So we need to know what is the plan to improve the oversight over these entities going forward. On the issue of the vacancies, the prolonged vacancies, and the issue of the moratorium, we also need clarity here because I believe the moratorium has been lifted. So we need an understanding as to why these vacancies remain a perpetual problem. It keeps on being flagged by the AG, and surely we need also an intervention in this regard. With regard to the AG's findings in general, he made a point when we engaged with him, Chairperson, about food parcels. He said that there was an issue that the department made no effort to ensure that they bring new suppliers on board when they had the time to do so. So I also want to know why this is the case. It should also be noted that the steps taken to address and prevent recurrence of irregular and fruitless expenditure, page 22 of the annual report, is the same as the previous years. So DSD will have to provide us with a clear plan on how this will help, seeing that these steps were taken before, but the challenges remain. So what will be done differently now? And I think this also goes for the NDA and SASSA, because, you know, each year we come back, we engage with the AG, and there seems to be a lackluster approach to implementing or addressing the AG's concerns. On the slide that speaks to the MPOs, you know, it says there that only 44.3% of NPOs compliance reports were processed within 2 months. And this is really an issue of concern for me, Chairperson, because I'm led to believe that there are now 231 registered NPOs in the country, and that only 60 or 70,000 of them are compliant, meaning that we are spending millions of rands being allocated to these NGOs without knowing whether they're compliant or not. And so we need to also hear from the department in terms of how they will remedy this. I do believe that they've been offered capacity by a group called the NGO Advisor, who is offering free verification processes for them, which they haven't taken up. So maybe we can look at that. Then I would like to ask on the issue of the social workers, a policy on voluntary inclusion of social workers in Social Security Forum for the South African Directors Generals were not submitted as planned for the year under review. And what were the reasons for the delay in this regard? I would also like to know whether the minister in the year under review at all considered engaging with the Deputy President as the leader of government business to ensure that we get that 2018 cabinet resolution on the absorption of social workers implemented. Chairperson, I also remember last year we spoke to the department about their statistics or the amount of people with employees with disabilities that they employ. If I read the table correctly, I see the department's only got 9 employees with disabilities employed. And I think this is quite a disgrace because it falls far short of government's 6% target. Again, we need a plan to rectify that. Ms. Honorable Aris did raise the issue of the consultants. But then again, you know, I don't understand why we're spending so much money on consultants, but we've got so many vacancies. Surely that doesn't add up. We can't be spending so much money on consultants. We need to know whether we got value for money in terms of the spend on consultants. With regards to SASSA, you know, I'm very concerned because I listened. The Auditor General said that SASSA ignored Treasury notes in terms of the procurement of PPEs, and that they in fact paid more than they should have. The person who made the presentation said this was due to the fact that Treasury kept on changing their notes. But I don't think the notes would have had, you know, such a substantial difference in terms of what the affordable or the allowed prices should be for PPE. So we need clarity in that regard. SASSA speaks a lot about the new plans that they implemented to prevent fraud, their fraud management strategy. But I need to know how much money did they actually save or recovered in the past 2 financial years, and how many officials were actually fired or prosecuted due to this new fraud management strategy. Also, SASSA reported that they are dealing with financial misconduct cases. However, the AG reported that they could not find evidence that disciplinary action were taken against the transgressors. And in fact, the AG, like you said, highlighted this is an area of concern and regression. And we need to know from SASSA why. Also, with regards to the one slide speaks to the 10-day turnaround for application of new grants. I want to know whether this applied to the 350 grant. And I also want to know whether they can appraise us with regards to the progress that they've made so far in terms of dealing with appeals for this 350 grant to date, because we're still getting a very lot of issues being raised by the public about this issue. Lastly, on the NDA reported that the vacancy rate is very high this financial year due to the reprioritization of employees. So what are the plans to reduce the current vacancy rate at the agency? Also, with regards to fruitless and wasteful expenditure, the AG highlighted that, again, there are this issue of people who don't show up for bookings. You know, we're wasting money by booking a hotel accommodation, car hire, flights, and officials don't pitch for this. And I really don't understand why are we allowing officials to waste money? We don't have money to waste. And I would like to know with regards to the travel and accommodation bookings that are not met or kept or honored, whether we've got repeat offenders in this regard, and whether people are being held responsible in this regard, and whether we are recouping money.
Thank you, Liz.
I'm almost done. One second. Lastly, Chairperson. Lastly. My last question, I promise. Chairperson, I would like to know with regard to the CARA funding from the NDA, who sat on the selection panel that made the decisions around which NGO should receive funding or not? We did ask this to them last time. And I'm asking this in the light of the fact that, like we said, book clubs and rugby clubs were funded, but not established organizations such as Rape Crisis and the Saartjie Baartman Center. And also, I would like to say on that list, for example, there's a shelter that was funded. And okay, but if they can just provide us more details on that. Thank you. Sorry for being difficult. I made it. Thank you.
I know the passion. Honorable Abraham.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, and thank you to the department and the NDA and SASSA for their presentations. Chairperson, my questions are as follows. I would also like to know if the department could possibly also courier us some hard copies of these annual reports. Then, Chairperson, I've been asking repeatedly for the document on linking child support grant beneficiaries to the basket of government services, and I'm asking for that document once again here today. And then, Chairperson,
Just hold on, Honorable Abrams. AGG. Yes. Hold on, AGG.
Chair.
Do you hear that question?
I do, Chair.
The document linking child support to the government services. The document has been requested several times. And when an honorable member is requesting it, it means when you circulate it, it goes to the entire committee. Please, let's not allow this question being raised again.
Chair, thank you. I think it's a discussion paper, if I recall correctly.
Not for publication.
I think it was an internal discussion paper, if I recall. But I want to.
No. If I understand the member, is that the fact that you are reporting the work you have done in this integration, it means somewhere there is a record. Honorable Abrams, can you repeat what you're asking for?
So, Chairperson, time and time again, all the presentations, the department makes mention of how we're going to be linking child support beneficiaries to the basket of services. And I, for one, would like to know how this is going to be done. So if it's a document that cannot be given to the members, then at least let me know that so I can stop asking the question.
Okay, you've made your point. Proceed.
Okay, thanks, Chairperson. Okay. Then also, Chairperson, Honorable Aris and myself repeats the same question and the request, why the Western Cape, who has the highest level of gang violence in the country, wasn't included in the gang strategy. And I think we asked the question because we haven't gotten answers yet. But I want to take it a step further and I want to know, has a date been set in 2021 for the Western Cape to be trained on this anti-gang strategy? Then there are, in the annual report, there are 2 NPOs who actually does great work, but it appears haven't spent their budgets, and that's NICRO and Kulesa Social Solution. And they focus on crime prevention and diversion programs. And I would like to know why those 2 NGOs in particular didn't in their budget. Then, Chairperson, on the issue of the substance abuse budget. And from 2018-19 to 2019-20, there was an 80 million budget cut. And I think we can all understand that there is a link between crime and violence and abuse when it comes to individuals abusing substances, petty crime to pay for drugs, violent behavior while on drugs, mental problems, alcohol abuse, and GBV. So my question is, why was this budget cut so drastically? And when I looked at the MTEF and I looked at the growth between 2018 all the way to 2022, it's showing a massive negative 42% growth. So why has that substance abuse budget been cut by 85 million is the question. Then, Chairperson, if I leave here with nothing else being answered but this question, is that the CFO for the department indicated that 92 million for gender-based violence programs, particularly the social workers and the one-stop centers, was sent back to Treasury. So my question is 2 parts. Is it 33 million for the gender-based violence social workers and 59 million for the one-stop centers? Or is it 32 million for the social workers and 60 million for the one-stop centers? And then also, we were under the impression that the social workers were on contract between December and March. So if the total 92 million has gone back to Treasury, were these social workers then not paid? Were they paid by provinces? Or were they not employed and therefore the entire budget went back? Because I am very, very confused but why the entire 92 million has gone back if we had gender-based violence social workers working for 4 months from December to March. Then also I'd like to know, the minister has said that COVID hampered the filling of the DG vacancy post and it had been advertised. How far are we in that process? Then moving on to SASSA, and I've just got 2 questions for SASSA. Is attention being given to filling the vacancy post in the disability management units across the provinces? Because when I've looked at all the organograms for the provinces, almost each and every disability management post, the manager post, is unfilled. And then on SASSA as well, circumstances now with coronavirus has now had criminals hide their faces with masks, and we've seen an increase in robberies at cash points and at SAPO. And as we know, this has a knock-on effect on the beneficiaries who, had to borrow money to even get to that pay point. And I looked through the annual report, but I don't see that this is making, there's no discussion on this topic. And I just would like to know, is SASSA engaging SAPs or private security companies on this issue? And is there a security plan to protect this money, because it's also going to come at a cost to SASSA, later down the line as we see it increase. And then lastly, Chair, for the NDA, I would appreciate if maybe the NDA could also, like the department did, at every target that's not met, if they can also clearly indicate the reasons why that target was not met. And then also just to ask this question, the department, the NDA replied to a question of mine, a written question of mine, speaking to the legal fees that are still outstanding. And currently that amount is 1.2 million rand that is not paid, that is, what's the word I'm looking for, accruing interest. So when your annual report, do you highlight this 1.2 million in unpaid legal fees, and when is it going to get paid? Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Iris. After you is Mevrouw Breed.
Dankie, voorsitter. Thank you so much, Chairperson. Maybe just to reiterate what my colleagues have said is, I think the department has many green shoots. I think there are some positives, and I think they have really, along with their entities, really been thrown into the deep end of the pool when we look at the pandemic and COVID. And I think despite that, and despite all the challenges, they are trying to swim. But as is said, and I made a note here, beste bedoelings, maar word nie noodwendig uitgevoer nie. And I think that has been the overwhelming feedback from my colleagues as well. So, Chairperson, not to repeat what my colleagues have said, maybe let's start. I have no questions for NDA, but let me start with SASSA as well. I'm glad to see that they are continually monitoring the situation at SAPO, and they are talking about that. During this past week, however, I was in Hartswater and Nigel, and I see the long queues, the no social distancing, no wearing of masks is persisting. So I would really like, specifically in these smaller towns where you have only one outlet, I would really like like SASSA to focus on that and to follow up and talk to SASSA and to reiterate Honourable Abrams to really ensure that there is safety and security for those people. I welcome the plans in terms of morale boosting. My fear is, however, that even before COVID, we needed morale boosting. And I want to find out from both the department and SASSA, how are we going to do that? How are we going to ensure that circumstances are better so that we have staff members performing at most? I think much has been said about the staff complement. When are we looking at vacancy filling? And that is the majority of mine. We have 8,000 employees within SASSA, and I don't think that is quite enough to handle the tremendous strain we are under. also the systems. I remember in a previous sitting, our systems did not necessarily talk to one another. I made a note here, 350 Rand grant versus normal SASSA versus DHA versus the banks. Can SASSA maybe update as to how is that process going? Are we all talking, are all the systems talking to one another? I made a mention in a previous committee that I think I've been in the Free State for too long because I'm losing my English and I'm only thinking in Afrikaans. So I really do hope the CEO understands my broken English. Also, I would like to know.
So there is no problem. Akbar, you can Afrikaans praat. We will get interpreter.
Dankie, voorsitter. I would like to know in terms of money that has been stolen and also grant money that has been stolen, and specifically making reference to the 350 Rand grant where employees receive those grants. Where are we standing in terms of getting that money back, of actually being reimbursed by that? And also the online system. I visited it yesterday and it's quite awesome. But what is the time frame for SASSA in terms of our online systems to actually have them up and running, to shorten our queues at our SASSA offices, to actually have that service fully operational and implemented, to have an online system? And I think that also speaks to the biometric systems and the updates of clients. What is that time frame? Once again speaking, we have many plans and we have big plans, and I welcome the plans. But if we don't have clear deadlines, I'm afraid that we're going to sit here next year and we're going to miss the deadlines as well. And just how are we going to respond to that? Chairperson, in terms of DSD, I'm talking too long. I also made a note of monitoring and evaluation and just checking up on the entities and as well on the NGO database. Where are we in terms of that? To actually ensure that SASSA has, DSD has a database so that we can know where are our NGOs, how are they operating, and to actually have that clear-cut process to ensure that we do not have people double dipping. Chairperson, and then I just said ICT systems update. What is the cost of that? What are we looking at, and what will the time frame be? So that is the majority of my questions, Chairperson. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mevrouw Breed. Honorable Mvana. Honorable Mvana.
Chairperson, hello.
Yes, hello. Shoot.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are. Go on. Whoa.
Okay, thank you very much, Chairperson. I'm checking, man, what type of support is required, Chairperson? I'm on assistant DA to succeed in department be able to tangibly on the target or intervention, Chair. Thanks. That's all.
Thank you very much. I see no other
Thank you,
hands,
Chair.
honorable members. Thank you very much. Honorable Bilangulu, I saw Honorable Bilangulu's name. Yes?
Done. I'm done.
Thank you very much. Honorable
Chairperson.
Bilangulu, I saw.
Chairperson.
Yes, Honorable Bilangulu. You
It's
can
my
shoot.
turn now. Okay.
Please shoot. But
No,
your name
thank you.
disappeared on the chat. Yeah, proceed.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and good morning to everyone. My first question, Chairperson, it goes to the department. What are the foreseeable implications on the delays in sourcing technical support on the sheltering services provided by the department? And the second one is, how is the status of financial and performance management affected by the lack of the development of programs such as the community-based disability inclusive development programs? To the NDA, comparing the status of internal control with that of last financial, in particular the section of the financial performance management, the NDA seems to be struggling. What type of intervention is required to cap this recurrence? On the DSD annual report on entity oversight, what measures are in place through the Office of the DG to address challenges related to entity oversight? What result has been yielded through this process? What are the continued persistent challenges? On the NDA annual report, on the performance summary, what is the underlying cost of program one not achieving any of its target? Have this target been carried over to the current financial year, and what are the implications? The last one on the SASSA annual report. On the social assistance program, plan targeted of 30% of the total SRD rent value awarded through cooperatives and SMMEs. Only 19% was paid through cooperatives. Was the allocated 53 million that was committed to at the end of March 2020 paid out? Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Elagul. ADG, by past, you are finished and done. Proceed.
Thank you very much, Chair. We'll do it just before past. So this is thank you very much for the inputs and the questions that have been provided. I think I counted one member asked 20 questions, if I recall properly. But we're okay with that. We'll do our best to respond to all the questions, Chair. Some questions, of course, were questions falling outside of the reporting period. For example, the 350 grant only came in May, so it was before. But because of the importance, we'll respond to those. Chair, let me start. This is how I would suggest we do it. Tabani, if you could deal with the issue of disabilities and M&E, followed by.
Unmute.
Oh, sorry, the host had muted me, Chair. No, can you hear me now?
Yes, you can.
Thanks. I was saying, I'm not sure if you heard what I said earlier. We had one member, we counted 20 questions from one member, but we will try our best to answer to all the questions.
That is the energy of members.
Thank you, Chair. We'll reply with the necessary energy from our side as well. Chair, Tabani will answer first, followed by Fani, and then it will be Isabella and Caesar on the issue of shelters and the anti-gangsterism strategy. Then Peter, then the CEO of the NDA, the CEO of SASSA, and then myself. Thank you, Chair. Tabani?
Thank you, Chairperson, once again, and honorable members. I think the first question was on the disability as exactly what has been happening. And I did indicate at the beginning that part of the challenges in terms of the capacity that has remained when this work was planned, it was before the function was shifted to the president. So the whole responsibility on the machinery of disability has now been relocated and moved all through the end process to the president. The issue that was raised by the Honorable Chairperson seeking clarity on the on the evaluation of the social sector infrastructure program. What was happening is that for the past 3 years or 5 years, the department had come up with a social sector infrastructure program, which looks at the interventions at the infrastructure level on the facilities that you have. That should include the ECDs, include some of the centers for the substance abuse and so forth. It also within that function, that's why we're even managing the conditional grant on the ECD from the Treasury. So because we have that social sector infrastructure program, we wanted to conduct an evaluation study to look at if it's being implemented program, does it make any changes in terms of as an intervention, if there's any improvement within our infrastructures as a department. So that evaluation, when it was designed and planned, it was limited in terms of the scope on the areas which we will focus on in terms of the programs. So when that was done, there was then a view to say, let's increase the scope. Once you increase the scope, then it had then implications on the initial budget. So we had to look at additional funds. So that could not be completed within the financial year 2019-20. But I did indicate that that work has been completed by during the second quarter, and it's something that you've already reported on when we came to present on the second quarter. I think the other matter was regarding the documents being shared. There's been some delays when it comes to finalization of our annual reports, the final version. Indeed, we did table at the end of October, as guided by the Deputy President, as well as the National Treasurer, as well as the DPME. When we tabled the electronic version, we were then started the process of coming up with a much more printed version. So the layout, the artwork and design, especially when it comes to the financial statements, sometimes takes a while. And we would appreciate, honorable members, that there's been delays with the AGSA in terms of completing our work. It affected not only us, but other government departments. But I'm pleased to report that within a week or less, we will finalize the hard copies and we will share widely with the members that have indicated. I think those are just the 3 questions. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Thabani. I'm going to add Kumbula to the list on the social workers matter. Fani, then Isabella.
Thank you, DG, and good afternoon, Honourable Chairperson. So there were some issues raised in terms of the fruitless and wasteful regular and then also the unauthorized. So let me deal with that first. In terms of the fruitless and wasteful expenditure, these cases have been investigated. We've already issued letters for recovery. I must say this is the area where we've got issues with the Avis or these car companies that we rent cars from. Some of them was not deliberate negligence by the employees, but we have investigated matters. The Loss Control Committee is now sitting every week to investigate and make decisions on these things and take it forward. In terms of the unauthorized expenditure, Chairperson, when by the time the disaster was declared, we've already paid all the social grant money to SASSA and disbursed all the funding for the 1920 financial year for the social grant beneficiaries. Then, as I said, SASSA has requested, because of the disaster for the COVID, the social grant payments for the 1st of April was pushed back to the 30th of March. The department didn't have that 15 billion rand amount in its budget allocation. Treasury granted us approval that we go in overdraft for the prior financial year because there was not a budget process to legalize the 15 billion rand. And they said they will then basically regularize this 15 billion rand expenditure in the new financial year, which is the current one. So therefore, we had to record the 15 billion as an over expenditure in our books for the prior financial year. Then in terms of Honourable Abrams, the 92 million, that's actually the net effect of the saving that we had in welfare services. Indeed, as I said, we have been reprioritized 93 million in total for the GBV program. That was done in late October, beginning of November. part of that 93 million was the 33 million that we've calculated the cost for the appointment of the 200 social workers. We've appointed them at national. At that stage, the department had estimated savings on its personnel budget, so we could carry them in terms of our current personnel allocation. And we've asked really that we could shift the 33 million from our goods and services to COE at financial year end, of which they then didn't approve it. And that's why we showed the 1.8 million over expenditure. The 60 million, we've requested Treasury that we could, because it was a goods and services allocation, we requested to that as a transfer payment to these one-stop centers. We've done so in the last quarter of the financial year, and then COVID hit us, and then we didn't hear anything from the National Treasury up until May, which is in the new financial year. So therefore, the whole 93 then went back to the revenue. We were not allowed to request this 93 to be rolled over to the new financial year because all funding was then utilized for the COVID expenditure. So, but we have appointed 200 social workers. They are now in the provinces. They've been absorbed in all the provinces. And that the 33 million was basically the cost estimate for those 200 social workers for a 4-month period from 1 December to end of March. Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, DG.
Thanks, Fanny. Can we go to Isabella quickly? And Caesar? So we're running out of time. Let's take Peter in the meantime.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Members, and the Minister. There were 2 questions that were asked in relation to NPOs. Okay, let me just read it because sometimes, Chairperson, I will say something and I offend the members.
And you must be careful about that.
Yes, thank you very much, Chairperson. I'm very careful. In terms of the NPOs, the NPO Act 71 of 1997 mandated the department to register NPO and keep a database of all NPOs. Currently, we have got 233,000 NPO registered on the database, and the members of public, including MPs, you can access the database. You just go to www.dsd.gov.za, and then there will be an emblem there which says NPO. You go there, you type the name of the NPO you want. It will show you even the board members of the NPO, where it comes from. You can see it's open for public scrutiny. The Act further says that that database, anyone can request whatever, and we will be able to provide that database on the NPOs. When we monitor the NPOs that are registered, we find that currently the compliance to NPO Act, not any other things, NPO Act, in terms of Section 18 of the NPO Act, which says that all registered non-profit organizations must register yearly, must report yearly. They must send an annual report, audited financial statement back to the department so that we can see that they're still existing. With that, we have seen that a lot of NPOs are not complying. So we have launched a Know Your Status campaign, to talk to those NPOs, because in terms of Section 21, it says that if a non-profit organization does not report, we need to deregister them and remove them from the system. So since we have done that last year, we found a lot of NPO responded where the compliance was above 73%. But now, due to COVID, it has gone down.
again. We launched it, I think, in October. Minister launched it, and from the 1st of April next year, we are going to deregister all NPOs that are not compliant. So we have launched a campaign. We go to the area using any other means to make sure that NPO complies to the NPO Act. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter. Can we go to Kumbula quickly? Mr. Ndaba, just the one question on social workers, very quickly.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, honorable members and Minister. There was a question on the social workers. Over and above the 200 social workers that we allocated to the province, we had an additional allocation of 1,809 social workers on the 1st of June for a period of 3 months. Of these, the provinces have already employed 1,025. Now, at the expiry of this contract, a decision was taken to extend the contract, and this was in consultation with National Treasury. So these social workers are now going to be employed up until the end of March 2021. So that would be the second phase. Now, in the second phase, an additional 647 social workers have been employed. So that is the figure. Of course, this is work in progress, and we concede that the numbers are not sufficient, but we are continuing to monitor this process, especially looking at the allocation that has been made to the provinces against the actual employment. That is the only answer, the only question for me, DG. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ndaba. Isabella, 1 minute only, please. We're running out of time.
Yes. Thank you, Chairperson, Honorable Minister, and Honorable Members. I'm just going to respond to the issue of anti-gangsterism and hand over to Caesar to talk to the sheltering one. The training, Chairperson, of anti-gangsterism commenced in 2018-19, and Western Cape was amongst the 6 provinces that were prioritized in terms of the training. And that is why during 2019...
ATG, can we see the people who are speaking, or are they shy?
Yes, we've encouraged them previously to show their face.
Are they shy?
Isabella, please show your face.
What do I press? I don't know what to press, Chairperson.
You go to video, Isabella. This is Zoom.
Zoom, I don't know. I know MST.
It's fine. Kubegasis.
Okay.
I'll take up of you.
I am saying that we commenced with this training in 2018-19, where we prioritized 6 provinces, and Western Cape was amongst those provinces that we prioritized, given the fact that, there is a high rate of gangsterism in that province. And for 2019-20, we also continue to monitor, in terms of the phenomenon, and this is why it is not included here. Then I'll hand over to Caesar to respond to the issue of sheltering.
Caesar.
Yes. Thank you, thank you, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Members, Minister, and DG. The question on sheltering strategy, yes, indeed, there was a challenge last year. Our procurement processes were a bit slow. We could not finalize that process. However, now we have done that. We are on track. We have started doing the work. We will be able to finalize the intersectoral strategy on sheltering in this financial year. Thank you.
Thanks, Caesar. CEO NDA, and then CEO SASSA. We're still striving for the 1/2 because I would just take a minute.
Thanks, DG. Let me take I'll split the questions to respective officials. On Caravan, it's a task team, which is an integrated task team with various departments sitting in that team. We are happy to share the list of the task team members with the member Fanda Neve, if I got that from her. On member Mutawong, the disaggregation or disaggregation on database of the CSOs, it doesn't impact on the capacity and the empowerment of the CSOs. It's an independent process where we had to interface the module which was missing, which saw us not to finalize the system per se, but it doesn't hinder on any development programs in terms of capacity, rendering capacity building to the identified CSO. It's an independent process which has to do with just the system. But in terms of the manual representation of reporting and data, we have it in our system. Can I hand over to CFO to deal with the issues overtime, admin versus programs, fruitless, vacancy rate, and all that? Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Chair, in terms of our asset management, we managed to resolve a significant number of our findings related to assets, and we have reduced them, especially in terms of the impairment of assets, the useful life calculation, and in terms of our reconciliation of our verification outcomes to the GL and so on. There were some outstanding findings relating to the barcoding of assets because we have decentralized sites, which makes it a bit difficult in terms of our asset management. But we have since appointed an asset management officer, and we should see an improvement or reduction of findings in this area. Then in terms of our cash management, we had no findings in terms of cash management. We did, however, have a finding in terms of petty cash, and we've addressed the gaps in relation to this in our revised finance policy, which is serving at the board this Friday. Then in terms of our spend on employees, 51% of our total spend as at the end of the financial year was spent on employees. And the reason for this is that our work is community-based and is labor-intensive in terms of the development practitioners that we employ. And as at the end of the financial year, we spent 22% on our mandated costs of capacity building, mobilization and grant funding, and 25% on our admin governance and business support costs. Then in terms of our legal fees, we did not have an amount of 1.2 million outstanding as at the end of the financial year for any legal services. But we do have outstanding legal claims in terms of supplier disputes. And the details of all of these is disclosed under contingencies in the financial statements. Then in terms of the status of controls, we've seen an improvement in our financial controls, and this is recorded in the AG's report, particularly in the areas of the quality of financial statements produced. We've seen an improvement in our record keeping and our processing and reconciliations and in regular reporting, as well as the assurance provided by our internal audit function. And then in terms of the question on fruitless and wasteful expenditure, we've already started recovering the costs in relation to travel-related no-shows. And we've also revised our travel policy. It's also serving at the board this Friday to cover any gaps in relation to this area. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, CFO. I will have Ms. Dlamini to answer the question on the non-achievement of targets in Program 1. Ms. Dlamini.
Thanks, Chairperson. In terms of the in terms of like the HR strategy and the implementation of the salary scale as the annual target, with that regards, we would then appreciate that like we have a predecessor or the requirements that we needed to be implemented in terms of job evaluation prior for us to start implementing the salary scale. I must say that it's safe to say that like as much as that target was not achieved by the end of the financial year, however, in the current year, this financial year, it was carried over, and the implementation of the salary scale is in progress. Therefore, this target was earmarked or planned with an assumption that like the job evaluation to ensure that like the jobs are graded with a proper are graded properly for the NDA to be able to start implementing the salary scales itself. So it will be achieved, it's carried over, and therefore it will be achieved with during this financial year and with the dependency of the budget availability to implement. And then with regards to like the ICT integrated system, where a system is then the database where it needed to be completed, I must say 90% of that target has been achieved as indicated in the presentation. However, it's the integration of the last module of the system, and there has been an impact in it because other modules or other activities in terms of the performance within this target is linked to the module itself, or the it's linked to the
Dlamini, your time is up. We have to wrap it up. We're running out of time, seriously. CEO SASSA still has to quickly respond. Chair, through you, if I may ask that we respond to that question in writing to further expand on it.
Thanks, Chair.
It's a request I'm making, kind. I'm just worried about time. CEO?
Thank you, Chair. I will try and respond to as many questions as I can. I believe Fani has responded to the issue of the 15 billion over expenditure in terms of what it is that actually happened there. With regards to the issue of the cash pay points, it's important to highlight that the people that go to the cash pay points are those people that don't have access to the national payment system. Hence, the SAPO actually is the one that goes to the different cash pay points, which have reduced tremendously. And the idea is for us to see as to what infrastructure over time can we provide for those communities where there is no access to the national payment system, something that we cannot do on our own, but are working together with the Reserve Bank and other stakeholders to make sure that we can provide support with regard to those communities where the banking system actually doesn't exist. A question was asked with regard in terms of what is it that we're spending in terms of the budget allocation for administration in line with the what we actually pay out on grants. We pay about 175 billion, and when you look at it in line with the 7.7 billion, 1.1 billion is basically what goes towards staff. The rest of the funding goes to pay for all the other different services that we provide. And when you look at it as a percentage, it's below 3% in terms of what it is that we pay for administration. And the general benchmark in terms of administration organizations is normally about 4%. So we are not necessarily overpaying in terms of administration, even though there's a lot that we still can do in terms of making sure that we're efficient and effective in terms of the delivering the services, and make sure that the services are delivered at the point where our people are and were effective. The question was asked with regards to resolving the problems and the challenges that we have with the post office. We continue to engage with the teams, not only at administrative level, but also with the ministers, so that we can make sure that we do resolve the challenges that we have. What becomes important to note is that normally only about 500,000 clients get paid at the post office that go and get their money from the post office, and the rest of the clients get their money from the national payment system. With us paying the 350 through the post office, it means we've also added a lot of administration for them, because now we have about 4 million clients that were now paying only for the 350, not for the other clients, because those actually go to the national payment system. So now we've had a major impact, and for the future, we need to continue to look at what are the other ways that we can pay for SRD, looking at the voucher, which the minister has asked us to look at in terms of what we do in that regard for the future, because the current voucher system, unfortunately, that we have is a manual voucher, which we cannot necessarily use now during the time of COVID. I will ask Zaki, the CFO, if the DG will indulge us if we're not out of time, which I suspect we are, in terms of just him talking to the irregular expenditure and what it is that we're doing as a team to make sure that we deal particularly with the historical issues, because on the new ones, we actually don't have a lot. Zaki, can you please come in for 1 minute?
Thank you very much, CEO. Thank you very much, CEO. In terms of the regular expenditure arrangement, we have finalized most of the cases. In the regular expenditure, Chairperson, is that we deem a case to have been finalized when we have implemented consequence management and we have submitted to National Treasury for condonation and Treasury agrees with us. That is how we define finalized case in terms of the regular expenditure. So currently we have 283 cases that are with Treasury, that consequence management has been finalized inside SASSA. However, we're still waiting the outcome of Treasury in terms of the condonation, and that amounts to 211 million. In terms of the fruitless and wasteful expenditure, Chair, we have finalized the cases except for 36 cases that we are dealing with as at the 16th of November. So that is the status of the fruitless and wasteful expenditure cases. In terms of the damages and losses, we are having an outstanding case of 143 cases amounting to 3 million. What we have done since, Chair, as I've indicated during my presentation, that we have already got a register, which is electronic register, that we track on every month, on each and every case, to make sure that it is finalized. So what we have done, we have developed a project plan working with labor relations to finalize and fast track those cases, except the cases that are currently in the court process. We are actually working towards at least finalizing 75% of the backlog. The comments by the AG was worried about the turnaround time of the backlog cases that we could not finalize. I think that's the status of the cases, Chair. So in terms of regular expenditure, the cases that we're dealing with is 495 that we have not finalized as to date.
Thank you, Mr. Chauke. See, Chairperson, just one matter I want to address and then we'll stop. Let me say that it's important to acknowledge that we haven't done enough in terms of entity oversight. But it's important to also highlight that we have done some work. At the last quarter of the 2019-20 financial year, we shifted the function into the office of the DG so that it gets more attention and we are able to address the issues much better. You would recall that I had also indicated that we are going to look for external support. We have sent out the terms of reference. We've now received the expression of interest from the various those who had expressed that they want to participate in this process. We are now in the process of evaluating that. And as soon as that's done, it will assist us in trying to really beef up the entity oversight in terms of the work of the organization and its agencies. But in addition to that, what we've done is we haven't stopped anything from not happening. We've instituted, as I previously reported to this committee, the DG CEO Interface Forum, where we are looking at the operational accountability matters. The minister has also instituted a forum where she engages with the CEOs and, of course, within the context of the NDA with the board on a quarterly basis. And I think over and above that, we are trying to improve our entity oversight framework. even though we're going to get a service provider who's going to assist us with this work, internally we're already trying to improve our framework. And one of the things we're also doing, we're improving the shareholder compacts that we have with our entities, not just NDA and SASSA, but including our other two entities, which is the Central Drug Authority and the South African Council for Social Work Professions. And what we want to focus on in the shareholder compacts is areas of performance, areas of risks, areas of audit outcomes, and the fraud and risks, fraud risks rather, and particularly when it relates to SASSA. So some work has been done. It hasn't been as adequate as we wanted to do, but some work has been done. Maybe lastly, on the issue of persons with disabilities and the moratorium, I must say that the moratorium is an old matter. You'd recall that Minister Zulu lifted the moratorium, and what we started doing is we started filling a number of posts. I think the last time I reported to this committee, we had sent out about 35 posts that were already through the recruitment process. Some advertised, some in interviews, and so on and so forth. And because of the implication of the fact that SSA are no longer doing the verifications, we had to look for external support in order to do some of that work. So they're at various levels, but we are improving the issue of vacancy rates. But importantly, I want to say that in terms of persons with disabilities, the committee would recall that an entire function in the DSD actually shifted to the presidency. And some of the colleagues who were in that function, which is a function entitled the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, it was an entire DDG, Chief Director branch, sorry. It had shifted over to the presidency. And this is part of the reason why the vacancy rate in terms of persons with disabilities has shot up in the manner in which it has. Chairperson, I want to thank you and apologize that we've gone slightly beyond. I apologize sincerely that we had to pause a little bit. We'll try our best to try and respond much quicker in some of the other questions. Thank you very much.
TJ, I repeat, there are green shoots in the department. There's a lot that must be sorted out. And I think the entities must stand up and be counted. We don't want to come back again here and talk about entities. The reason entities especially ensure that you hire CEOs with special skills, which I hope this is the case, is because you want entities to be independently, competently, and professionally, efficiently, and effectively run. Actual entities are supposed to beat the department on competence. I don't want us to come back and do that. But the green shoots are there, acting DG. Lindu.
Chair, before you wrap up, sorry, may I just
Yes.
ask a question? Chairperson, at the introduction, thank you, Chairperson. At the introduction, the Honourable Gillian, in your absence, had said that if questions were not answered, that we will be furnished with responses by Friday. I just want to know how possible that is, because, for example, I think a lot of questions, because of the time allocated to us, were not answered, for example, on the consultants, the fraud management successes at SASSA, etc. And I also just wanted to say that, you know, when we ask about NPOs, Chairperson, and their non-compliance and the fact that they possibly get paid while they're non-compliant, I don't think it's for us to say that we don't want to insult members when they're asking those questions, because we ask it because we're concerned about those issues. So I just wanted to say that, you know, it's not really a very friendly comment to make, that when we're asking issues that are important to us, that it's considered something that can possibly insult other people. I just wanted to say that, you know, that's not right, Chairperson.
If such comment was relating to that, I think ATG will have to respond and correct that. ATG?
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair and Honorable Van der Merwe. Let me apologize for that comment. It really wasn't meant in bad faith. We retract it unreservedly, and my sincere apologies in that regard.
Okay, thank you. Is that okay, Honorable Van der Merwe?
No, we're always happy, Chairperson. We want to work together and we must interrogate these issues, so we're always happy. Thank you, ADG.
Thank you for coming up to correct that. Well done. Lindy Wensabo.
Chairperson, it's Marcel Lindyways having a technical issue, Chair.
Oh, is that the end of the agenda, Marcel?
Yes, Chairperson, that is the end of the agenda.
Amandla, viva end of the agenda. Honorable member, may I take this opportunity to declare the meeting adjourned? I love you all. Thank you very much. Wait.
We love you over.
Wait. Honorable Minister, did you want to say anything? I didn't see you around. Sorry.
End of the agenda.
Sorry, honorable members. I didn't see that the minister is back. Honorable Minister, do you want to say anything?
No, thank you, Chairperson. I'm fine with everything, and thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for the meeting.
Thank you very much.
Amandla, Minister.
Amandla.
The minister, so I declare the meeting adjourned. Thanks for everyone. Thanks very much. Thank you, members.